Council DDA.
Council DDA and PSD back then.
Okay, we're going to call to order the regular city council meeting of April 24th, 2023. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Here.
Salvia,
Here.
Albrecht,
Here.
Gould,
Here.
Peterson,
Here.
Sage,
Here.
Trent.
Here.
Thank you. Will you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome, everybody. Nice to see a happy crowd here, at least for now, right?
Oops. Great.
First, we have public comment, scheduled and non-scheduled presentation. First, we have the presentation from Mike Spiz, our Oakland County Commissioner. Mike, come on up and welcome to our council.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I'll try to keep this brief since I see you have a full house.
And agenda.
So I'll touch on three topics. First, transportation. I'm sure you all recall the transportation millage that just recently passed here in Oakland County late last year. Oakland County has approved three additional resources within the county in the Economic Development Department to help run that. We just hired the manager of that group. We pulled somebody out of Ann Arbor, somebody with experience. You should have seen a press release. I think it was on April 24th. Eli Cooper will be that individual. And the Board of Commissioners also just approved $1.928 million for OPC to help fund the program that OPC currently runs. All right. So that'll come out of the 0.95 mils that everybody in Oakland County is paying. So what will also happen here in the next couple months, SMART, we'll be extending one of their lines up through Rochester, or up to Rochester, I should say. They should be having some public meetings, some public hearings for everybody to come out and voice your opinions on how exactly that's work. Has a date been set yet on how that's going to work? No. So hopefully that information will come out pretty soon. All right. Second, Oakland County has partnered with Macomb County and Wayne County for a broadband survey. Through the infrastructure bill out of DC, there's been some grant monies that have been allocated to municipalities around the United States to help expand broadband. So the three counties are getting together to do a survey to make sure the maps, because everything's going to depend on how the maps pan out. So there'll be some information that comes out very soon. There'll be people that will be coming to any of the events that you have out here in Rochester to try to get people to complete the survey. Because just like anything, the more surveys we have, the more information we have, the better chance we have of getting a grant, right, to expand that. So that'll be coming out soon this summer. Right. And the third item I want to touch on today is something that's near and dear to my heart, and it's something that you guys are already doing with your police department, is the co-responder program. Right? It's a pilot program that you guys are doing with OCHN. We at Oakland County are looking to use and or expand that program across the county into multiple years. So we've allocated some, or I shouldn't say we have yet, we're in the process of allocating some ARPA money, about $2 million to expand that program, because many of us on the board think that's a great program. It's actually one that's near and dear to my heart. Based on the issues that happened in Oxford, we think that the co-responder could help mitigate many, many issues for our police departments around the entire county. So with that, if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them, or if there's another topic you want to talk about, or you can just email me or call me.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
I have just one quick question, because you mentioned ARPA funds.
Yes.
And if you don't know this number, if you could just get it to the city manager, how much ARPA funds does Oakland County still have?
$80 million.
Thank you.
Yeah, of that 80, I'll expand a little bit. Of that 80 million, there's still discussions with the executive's office and the Board of Commissioners exactly how to allocate all that money.
Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. So, nice to see you again today.
Nice to see you again.
Yes. Question regarding the second item that was regarding the broadband.
Yes.
In those discussions, will they have it to where they're mindful of all the wires that are going on our poles that are causing them to be weighed down, et cetera? Because I've noticed that it's a huge impact that it had even in the last storm, having all these additional broadband lines.
I would say it's too early to tell at this point.
Okay.
They're just trying to fill out, the number one goal is, of course, to fill out the gaps, because there's gaps around the entire county where people still can't get broadband and get internet service easily and cheaply. So that's their number one goal. But I would expect those discussions to happen on what's the best way to install them, either on the poles or underground.
And thank you for that, because I think it's very important that we do think about that, because otherwise it's going to lead to more issues down the road if we don't.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Councilman, Brian, is there a question, or does that person just want to?
I believe there's a caller for public comment.
Okay, so that's not a question for our commissioner, I don't think. Any further
I do
from
not.
Just one.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yeah, so I wanted to know also, does the county have any plans for working with the MISHDA program regarding affordable housing and the statewide housing plan? Has that been discussion?
Yeah, there's already been some discussions on that, led by one of our commissioners, Charlie Cavell.
Okay,
We've already actually put some programs and grant funding in place for that, that are still early on in the development of that project.
awesome.
Yeah, they're using ARPA funds for that.
Okay, look forward to updates then.
Yep,
That'd be
I can
great.
bring that next time,
Thank
definitely.
you.
Further questions for our commissioner? No?
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a presentation from Maggie Bobbitz, who I do not see.
No, Councilman Albert just told me that Maggie, we had a disconnect there, and I don't think Maggie knew she was supposed to be here somehow tonight, but if Mr. Albert would like to give us an update.
Yeah, I felt it was important that we get an update as part of our commitment to the parade. The city of Rochester, along with Rochester Hills and Oakland Township, we all contribute our support financially and by signing an agreement, so that's already been done. The parade, this is the second year in a row we've done it. The parade sort of fell by the wayside several years ago, so we formed a committee last year and had our first Memorial Day parade in several years. It kicks off at 11 o'clock on May 29th, which is Memorial Day, at the Van Heusen Middle School. Parade participants, applicants are welcome. We want to sort of double the size of the parade from last year. We also have sponsorships available. All of those are available through the Rochester Regional Chamber website. So we have 2 more committee meetings to sort of button everything up so that each city, Rochester, we have our own ceremony on Mount Avon that starts at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, this year it's at 8.
8 o'clock. Thank you for that, Claire. I knew Leanne would know. Then Rochester Hills has theirs at 9:30. And then well, you just threw me in here, so I don't know. I know about the parade. I don't know about all this other stuff. So our parade kicks off at 11.
Okay.
11.
Okay, I got that right. So, and again, we're encouraging children to get involved this year with bikes, decorated bikes. Last year, we passed out, it was some of the council members up here were with me. We were passing out flags along the way, and we passed out over 300 flags going down the parade route. And we went to Blossom Ridge, where it's a senior community, and the seniors were out there, some of them in their Korea hats or Vietnam hats, and we handed them the flags. It was one of the most proudest moment I remember. Councilmember Sage is shaking his head. So this year we ordered 500 to pass out because we didn't have any left when we got to the end. But at the end, there'll be a ceremony at the Veterans Tribute at Adams Road, and there'll be presentations from several, the mayors of the different communities, and we're working on some other surprises, including a potential flyover during the ceremony. So again, this is a parade. We can never forget those people that have given their lives for our country. So we urge you to either participate by marching in the parade, pulling up a lawn chair along Adams Road that day, or if you have a business sponsoring the parade. So I want to thank the mayor and city council and city administration for, again, Rochester being an active participant in this, not only through our financial contribution, but our city administration does a lot with shutting off the roads and everything else like that.
Good, thank you. Any questions?
What? Go ahead.
Yes,
Councilmember Trent.
thank you. You can also, people in the parade can carry a photo of their loved one or someone in their family who has given their life for this country. And so it would be, it's going to be an addition to the parade as well.
Very good, thank you. I guess we can't hold it against Maggie if she didn't know she was supposed to be here.
She, she called me.
She
She
should
said
have
she
known,
didn't.
right? I mean-
No, she said she didn't know. She called me. Because I said to her, so you coming?
Next, we have, before we get to our next, Brian, we have someone who wants to make a comment.
Yes, there's a caller with the number ending 651. If you'd like to unmute.
Hi, this is Jane Turner on Parkdale.
Welcome, Ms. Turner.
I'm a little early, but I'm otherwise occupied tonight. Would you please pass the light ordinance? This has been going on for, I think, close to 3 years. I complained about Village Green, and it was taken at the same time, and it was taken care of in a week. The city has wasted too much time trying to get this ordinance through, and it deserves to be through. Thank you.
Thank you. And if anybody else wants to talk about the lighting issue, wait till it comes up on the agenda item. But thank you, Ms. Turner. Next, on to the.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Next is the DDA presentation of the Town Square project. I see a number of my fellow DDA board members here. And just as a preface, they're going to show us some concepts tonight. There are not any numbers right now associated with this, so those numbers aren't going to be coming till July, but we have Christy Trevorrow, our DDA director, and Ben Giovanelli, the board director of the DDA.
All right, cool, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, appreciate it. It's apparently reunion night in council chambers. We've got former council members and city managers in the sense. Just real quick setup. So tonight is the informational that I promised we would bring back to council. This presentation, the mayor has already seen it, and Councilmember Trent has already seen, and if you caught it on TV, this was essentially the same thing. I think they didn't even change the date. That's about it. So what you'll see tonight is what we just saw on last Wednesday at DDA. So I want to keep you guys up to speed as to what's going on. I think you're going to be excited and at least kind of to see where we're headed. But to the mayor's point, tonight's pretty pictures. All the fun stuff, numbers and stuff comes at the end of July, so about 90 days from now. So just real quick, I wanted to just kind of go through what our approach is to this, and I'll try and cover this every time I come up here and give you guys an update. But as far as our number one approach on this has been transparency and collaboration. I've shared that and repeated it continually. It's our true north, right? We want to make sure that everybody's feeling involved, and every voice is being heard, and we're moving things along. So I just wanted to set that goal. And in terms of our second, these would be sort of an order of importance as far as I'm concerned. Messaging and communication kind of ties to the first one, but we talked about this early on. Learning from Main Street Makeover and all of the communications that goes on with that. It's super important to keep everybody involved and to know what's going on so there's no surprises. And then number 3 is respecting the system of checks and balances. So as you guys know, you have the power of the purse string. Our forefathers were wise in setting that up. So our job as the DDA is to come up with our harebrained schemes, and then we come up here, and then you guys decide whether or not they get funded. So that's the way it works, and that's the way we're approaching it. And then number 4, really for me, is as sort of the DDA chair, is trying to keep things in perspective and keep things on track, right? So at the end of the day, we're trying to decide what to do with the 1-acre parcel. It's not like we're reinventing the entire city or redoing, the master plan. It's just a piece of dirt with significant grade challenges. So let's keep it in perspective as we go through the process. And then also, too, unfortunately, we don't have infinite money. If I can get some ARPA money sent our way for, this project, that'd be outstanding. Maybe our county rep will, right? Yeah, right? And then lastly, keep things on track. So my job is kind of, I don't want to say it's unenviable, but it's to try and keep everybody happy when at the end of the day, you're not going to make anybody happy. That's when you really got a great project if everybody's pissed at you. So it works out great. But no, in all seriousness, I want to keep things on track. We're not going to rush anything, but I also, too, want to not drag things out. So, government work has 12 years of being up there. I learned what not to do. So I'm trying to make sure we kind of not put the hammer down, but at least be responsible, keep things on track. So our main job here is to deliver something awesome in a reasonable time frame. So let me, Christie was yelling at me because this is, you could tell I did this one as an accountant. This is not fluffy and yellow and pastels. So tonight, we're going to receive a presentation from Scott Reynolds from AK Architects. Scott is sitting right here. Ted is not here this evening. He's the one that presented at our meeting because Scott was tied up, and Asil's involved in the project as well. Your subcommittee from the DDA is Tony LaPuma, who's in the audience tonight, as is Bob Bloomingdale, Roger Knapp, Councilmember Trent, and then myself and Christie are there just to kind of get in everybody's way. And then lastly, from the administration, Nick, Anthony, and Alec are all involved in the process. So just a real quick, I sent you guys a memo back in early April, and I addressed these topics, and Scott will be getting to them in detail, but I wanted to kind of revisit sort of where we're at, sort of the four elements. The first one was to arrive at what is it, and that's kind of what we're wrapping up tonight. And then after we get feedback on it, the next step is design development, and after that happens at the end of July, that will accompany the numbers. So there's a lot going to happen in the next 90 days, but that's kind of the process, and there's some other things we'll go. After that, and you guys say, yes, we're happy with it, then we go on to actually executing it. And we'll go through the timeline real quick. And I apologize for this, but once again, they were teasing me because I was using Excel. I'm like, dude, I'm an accountant. What do you want me to do? So where we at? We're at right now is the arrow. So meeting, I'm calling it City Council 1. When we were going through this in the beginning, I had Scott insert this in here because I wanted to track. I think I told you guys this before. I wanted, as soon as we get something, I want to bring it here so you guys can see it as well. So right now, you're going to, like I said, see the presentation that we saw. It was televised, DDA, it's also going to be televised here, so at least we're starting to get the word out. And then after tonight's meeting, we kind of go into the design development phase. But interspersed with that, we had some really good dialogue at our last meeting. And one of the things that became abundantly clear to me is that, we need to make sure that we're, over-communicating, get everybody involved. So as a great suggestion from Councilperson Trent, we have inserted 2 public input dialogue sessions, I'm calling them. Sue Keels, by the grace of God, has decided to assist us in this matter. If you don't know Sue, she's the former general manager of Royal Park Hotel, so she's knows a ton about the downtown area and will be really great at sort of being our MC and facilitator on both of these events. So they're both at Community House. I believe we've got them tied up, yes? Trying to get the first one, CMN, to come tape it. I don't know if we had a chance to get into that just yet, but. Okay, all right, so I want it, once again, trying to over-communicate, trying to get at least one of them taped. So there'll be 2 of those. Then after that, Sue will sort of compile everything, and then we'll come back probably your second meeting in June and report out as to what happened there, because I think it's June 5th, yeah, so, yeah, we would be too fast to do it for your first June meeting, so we'll do it second June meeting if the mayor will indulge us. And then after that, we'll get after design development, and then the 24th is the next big meeting. Here is when we have pretty pictures plus numbers, and we'll go through all that, and hopefully, and then after that, you guys will have another 21 days, I think the math had, from the time you see pretty pictures and numbers until your first meeting in August, which is the 14th of August, to consider the budget amendment to actually fund the project. So that would be the power of the purse strings that we were talking about before. So hopefully that'll be enough time. If not, I'm sure you'll let us know. And then from there, presuming it goes forward, there's almost like a dual thing that's going to go on there, where it's going to go to Planning Commission right after our July meeting. So we've got to kind of work that with the first meeting. It's August 7th is the Planning Commission. So it'll be at planning before you guys get it on the 14th. So you'll have not just our stuff, but also planning's first pass at it as well. So hopefully that'll provide you a ton of information to make an informed decision. And that was the goal, at least. And then presuming everything is good to go after the 14th, which we hope and pray, that it just sort of goes on from there. So we'll begin the construction documentation, which at that point, none of us will be involved in. It's all going to be the people we pay, money to do all the construction drawings and all that stuff. I will say, just backing up real quick, like next week or very shortly, we're going to hire a construction manager that is going to be in charge of putting the budget together. So that'll be part of what, and as soon as we get that, we'll kind of drib and drab that out as soon as it comes out. But, you've got a liaison that will be intimately involved in the process. And then as future developments warrant, I will make sure that we get up here give you guys a heads up. So then, at that point, construction project's done, final package is sent to the DDA for, the final, yep, let's go. Contracts are signed, and then I just penciled in these dates, but it seemed good, so I asked for initial bounce, and assuming the world doesn't blow up between now and then, they should work out. But sometime on October 24th, groundbreaking ceremony at the site, and then it's gonna flow into winter, so I don't know how much realistically Scott can speak to it, but I don't know how much it's gonna get done once it gets cold out, I have no idea. But the idea is that first part of spring, tax day, construction would commence, and then we would be done in time for a town square dedication by the mayor and Santa for Lagniappe 2024. So that's the goal, if everything goes perfect. So from beginning to end, it's 656 days, or almost 2 years. So, these things do take time, but, like I said, I'm trying to balance, making sure the voices are heard and we're doing everything we can, plus not really sort of unnecessarily dawdle if we can avoid it. So anyway, just want to kind of give you that heads up. And then, this is Christie, so this is with respect to our community vision session. She used my PowerPoint, I know.
I used PowerPoint, it was very sad. Anyway, so just, we talked a lot about community input at the DDA meeting, so I just did 2 brief slides just to recap and tell you what we're doing next. So just to recap of how we got here with community input is that we held two visioning sessions. Many people who are sitting in this room actually attended one or both of those, so they may recall this. The first one was in April of 2017. The purpose was saying that downtown was great, but what else could we be doing better? What else could be here? Based on that information, that's how the Town Square project originally got started, stalled during COVID, and then in September of 21, we did a check-in, invited anyone who had been there and many new people. Actually, 2/3 of the people who attended had not attended the April 2017 session, to say, okay, this is what we heard 5 years ago. Is this still what you want? And the majority of people said, yes, Town Square still rose to the top of things that people were looking for. So that's put us on our path to where we are in front of you today. And then, of course, Ben talked about the construction documentation and bidding. That's all coming into the timeline later on as we go. But for the community input strategy, and this is what we'll be launching tomorrow, as Ben mentioned, we have 2 community input sessions. They're going to be held at the Rochester Community House. We're asking people to attend either or, because we want to make sure, because obviously Community House is not so big, but we want to make sure as many people can get in as possible. We'll have an online form that people can register. It's free to attend, of course, and they can indicate which one they're coming for, so we can make sure we have enough seating and that we have enough food for everybody. So those are on those 2 dates. May 13th is a Wednesday, June 5th is a Monday. That'll be from 7 to 9 at the Community House, and this will be all over our social media starting tomorrow. In addition to that, we'll be putting out a press release to our entire media list to make sure that this gets into local papers as soon as possible, because May is coming very quickly. We're having what we're calling an open door at the Downtown Collaboration Studio. In the next week, our window will turn over to be completely front porch Town Square oriented. We have all the display boards, everything you're going to be seeing tonight will be featured in that window, along with an invitation for anyone who'd like to step in and ask any questions. We will be there. My staff will be trained up on the presentation, so anybody who steps in and asks any questions about the project itself or where we are with the project, they can answer that effectively. Also, we'll have a QR code that'll be on our window, so if somebody's walking by and we're closed, they can scan the QR code. It will take them to our website landing page that will have all the designs there, the invitation to the input sessions, and any other pertinent information, including a project FAQ. Ben had mentioned our Main Street makeover. That's something where we built a FAQ, which was really important, the frequently asked questions, the who, what, where, when, why. We're gonna have that there, and it will be adapted over time as we start to progress the project. But we wanna make sure that at any point, anyone is able to not only look at the project, but provide input. The online form will also allow people, as they're looking at everything, it'll have a link that they can shoot us an email if they have any input and they're unable to attend either of the visioning sessions, or they just want to give us input. Totally fine. So we're looking forward to the opportunity to share this project with our community. We hope that you like what you can see tonight. I think you will. And we're excited to get it out there and start getting people engaged and excited about what the DDA would like to do for our community and deliver on our promise that we started in 2017. Thank you.
You're good. So with that, we're going to bring up Scott and run through the presentation. I also want to acknowledge Lisa Drawdy Williams, who's here tonight. So we've got enough quite a quorum, but we're pretty close to it. So, just wanted to show support. So the entire subcommittee's here, plus Lisa, because she's great. So anyway, so Scott, take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate the introduction. Excuse me. I had a couple more crayons in my Crayola box, so we got the fancier stuff over here. But apologize. I wanted to present this evening some of the conceptual renderings that we've put together for the Town Square project. So we're really pleased to be back working with Christy and the entire design committee team. Obviously, we've been working on these concepts for a number of years. COVID kind of put a small kibosh on that, but the project is thriving again. So up here you see the overall concept rendering of the Town Square. We're at the corner of Water Street and 2nd. 3rd. My office is right here, so I should know those street addresses. But what we're envisioning is changing over the DDA parking lot or farmers market site over to the town square. So a couple of buildings that will be the primary anchor points are the front porch, which you see here in the upper right-hand corner, and then also some support structures that would have restrooms, storage, that kind of thing. So let's go through some of these parts and pieces. The goal here of the front porch is a classically inspired vernacular that would fit within the context of the city, and we feel would be a great attribute to have events, the front porch series, concerts, Santa would maybe be my favorite part that could be up here on this front porch, and year-round activities that would be able to be programmed on this site and really activating not only on special events but for those day-to-day activities and give us something downtown that we don't already have. So simple plan of early concept of what we have going on here. The front porch building, for the most part, is primarily the front porch. That's the focal point. We have about 1,500 square feet of space that can be activated for performance, maybe a band playing, and then that can also be converted over to allow space for some seating, maybe some bistro tables, things like that for people to come over and have some lunch. There would be some storage and obviously the office that would be relocated for farmers market activities. Everything that would support essentially the various events that would occur on site could happen out of the office, and then obviously storage space for maybe it be music equipment or let's say extra tables and chairs, all those various varieties of needs that would need to be provided here. So one of the things that we would be able to do here is at the upper city lot level that's adjacent. Previously mentioned, the overall site has quite a bit of grade to it, so there's some awesome opportunities here, and we're really envisioning this is the concept phase, right? We're only about 25% of the way through developing these drawings, but there's a lot of inspiration images that are driving some of our thoughts, and what else could we do? Some of these ideas were a donor wall, a history mural, a welcoming mural, different areas that we could bring additional art into the downtown and really let it thrive while also supporting the front porch. Yeah, go ahead.
Let's go back down. So as you guys can see, it's actually half a building. It's built into the hill, and then the bottom right is very important because that's a person standing there. So that kind of gives you an idea.
Yeah, so thank you for that. There is a significant grade change on this lot. So we know that we're going to have to incorporate some architectural features that incorporate that. There's about 14 feet at least of grade change from the city lot down to essentially the grade of the DDA parking as it currently sits. And then there's even more going down to Water Street. So what we're trying to do here is create some nice aesthetics and create a focal point while also, maintaining the safety and having attributes that positively contribute to downtown, like the mural wall versus just maybe a simple block wall that wouldn't be anything else. At the corner of Water Street and 3rd, sorry, there is the town square, the grand steps as we would like to call it, that would be welcoming people into the site. You can see the front porch in the background. There's a number of additional features that we'll get into here, but we want to incorporate a lot of natural landscaping, pull people into the site and make it welcoming and inviting. This is a great departure from the current situation of just hardscape and paving. We want to have that softscape that really welcomes people into the site and then also encourages additional events to occur downtown. One of the fun ideas that we had early on, way back when, was this amphitheater staged area that would be able to be used for a number of events, maybe music or movies in the moonlight. In the lower right-hand corner, set up the screen, allow people to kind of take advantage of the natural grade of the site to, whether it be an actual programmed event or maybe it's just someone stepping away from their office for lunch to have somewhere else to come and have some softscape that they would like to incorporate into their day-to-day. Another rendering here, and you can kind of see here the 3rd Street elevation that would be in the background. We're envisioning a lot of additional trees and plantings that would be incorporated here. Just a fun and very activated space. This is something where, you know, some of these natural elements we're trying to incorporate that idea of play, not only from maybe a program component, but just these features that could function as a terrace for movies in the moonlight, but it also could be somewhere for kids to play on, and then maybe serve a purpose for, you know, a small business meeting and an informal gathering. One of our fun attributes that we're really looking to incorporate is the site is fully accessible, and we're looking to maintain all of the existing cross-access areas that already exist. So you can see here the stairs in the lower left-hand corner of this image here. Those stairs would be reworked and be incorporated into a natural feature of, there's these Tripoli lights that we're trying to define a hardscape area where maybe that could be incorporated into a special event area, but during the day-to-day operation could be just a fun place to have some cafe or bistro tables. Maybe, you know, who knows, maybe that's where the Christmas tree goes, or various ideas. The natural landscape does have that significant grade, as I mentioned before, and we want to maintain access. So this is one element that actually is an ADA ramp along with stairs and gets people up to the front porch. So instead of it just being this unthought extra ramp maybe tagged onto the side of the building, we're trying to really incorporate our architectural buildings and the site features with landscape, you know, good landscape design, and let it be an all-inclusive space, not just something that able-bodied people could enjoy. So that's a little rendering of that. That's to to the left of the front porch. You'll see here that there's additional areas in the upper left where we're looking to take advantage of some of those blank facades of the buildings that are adjacent to the farmers market. Maybe a community-based mural, something that is inspired by the farmers market, or just something from the history of Rochester that we could incorporate and kind of really celebrate here on this site. One of the fun pieces, this is along the west side, so similar to that little Tripoli light area. Adjacent to it, we're thinking of some natural shaded areas. So our key here is that we don't want this space just to be used for, let's just say, only movies in a moonlight, or only when Santa comes into town, but rather a space that people are encouraged to utilize and really add something that we don't have downtown right now. So we wanted to have some shade structures, and one of the early concepts that we've had from many years ago was this idea of incorporating kind of these swings, right? So this is one of those elements where we're looking to incorporate that idea of play, not only for kids, but also for adults. And then this can also function as a small area where there's some shade, again, to go grab a sandwich or enjoy yourself or just catch up with a friend. That's kind of that third element, and here's a rendering of that. One of the various improvements that we're looking to make is also to the adjacent Water Street. So to improve kind of safety, pedestrian safety, and then incorporate kind of the best use of this let's say, parcel in this region of downtown for the sake of events is actually taking Water Street down to a one-way street to add some additional parking. We've worked with Nick. We've had some preliminary thoughts with the fire marshal. A number of those topics are in the works of resolving a more pedestrian safety focused design that would incorporate maybe reworking some of the entryways to the fire department's parking lot, but ultimately what the goal here is to maintain that fire safety during events, but also being able to maybe close down this small section of Water Street to have additional programming space. So that's the exciting idea here. And the upper left here, you can see where, you know, maybe that street becomes that extension of the front porch and the town square for when we have those large events downtown. So circling back to that idea of making sure this is fully accessible for able-bodied and wheelchair, there is plenty of stairwells and access around the site, but we've also incorporated ramping, right? There's ADA ramps that fully comply to the ADA regulations, and that isn't just something stuck on to the project, but rather integrated, right? We feel that there's an opportunity. You can see some of our inspiration images were early on in this concept, but incorporating that as a landscape feature, it can be a terrace design, and also promoting that inclusive action through the site. Now, directly adjacent to this space is we're planning on incorporating some natural water filtration. We're looking at some bioswales and some natural ways that we can incorporate stormwater management instead of always gravitating towards, let's say, underground detention or those detention basins that never look that great in the long term. We're looking to incorporate some plantings that can handle rainwater and can handle and want to be in those situations. So that is planned along Water Street here, directly adjacent to the ramp. That would be a natural bioswale and incorporate that kind of natural feature and water filtration that we do need on the site, but not in a obtrusive way. Of course, no public amenity is complete without some restrooms, right? So we have men's and women's restrooms. We've also incorporated a family restroom that would be fully ADA compliant. The entire building is ADA compliant, but in case there needs to be a two adult assist situation, or a mother needs a space to have a baby changing station, that's not only available in the men's and women's restrooms, but also in the family restroom area. Plus, we would incorporate some additional storage. We know there's going to be needs to kind of upkeep the property and some of these facilities. So along with the storage that's in the front porch, there would also be some here in the restroom storage facility. So that's a rendering of that. That's kind of similar to where one of the structures on site is there now, and this kind of blank gray blob in the background would be the fire station. So as I mentioned previously, we want to kind of take advantage of every surface possible, right? Something that's fun and creates an experience of people wanting to come downtown and expand upon what we don't have. So those facades that I mentioned previously, the idea is either farmers market inspired, a community inspired, or historically inspired, mural that could go there. And I think that's a great opportunity. Right now in the upper right, that is an image of the current condition of the site. And we feel like there's an opportunity there, right? Could we do something more and really celebrate who we are as a community and make it a fun, inviting space? So that's a concept rendering of that space, and you can see kind of that ADA ramp that I mentioned before, the couple of steps and those Tripoli lights that would be there, along with some of the swings that could be used by adults or children. So overall, one of the components that was very important to us was maintaining site access. So although this is a site design that is primarily focused on pedestrian activation, we know that fire and safety needs to have access. That's why all the way around the green space is a 20-foot wide and a drivable surface. Now, we don't envision that to be drivable by just anyone. That would be for safety reasons only, or maybe for a load and unload situation. But that is things that are incorporated excuse me, into the design to make sure that we maintain safety along with promoting events. One other thing here that I'll just kind of point out that we're looking at the top view is the front porch. So we're pretty much facing north with a little bit of tilt on the access. So you can see here that the front porch is over here on the left-hand side of the screen. 3rd Street is to your north, and Water Street is to your right. So that restroom building is essentially off that corner where there's ADA access and stair access. So you effectively can enter the site in 4 or 5 different directions. Where the existing staircase is, you can exit pretty close to where the existing staircase is. There's going to be the new grand stair that I showed early on at the corner that really welcomes people into the site, and then a large welcoming, inviting entry that's off of pretty much very close to where the existing drive access is to the parking lot would still be maintained, but more pedestrian focused. The village kind of square, the center of the town square would be, we're looking at an artificial turf at this point, so it could be easily maintained and it'd be readily available for not only the farmers market, but also various events. You can see here what's going on here is some of those large adult size checker or chess tables. You know, we really feel that there's the opportunity to program this space in many different ways, right? Not only for an event, but also for just that natural, I'm gonna swing by and curiosity of what might start occurring here. So of course, with all the pretty pictures and drawing with my crayons, we also wanted to make sure there's some legitimacy to the proposal. So at this point, what we're looking at is we have space for about 75 10 by 10 tents. So that's a very large amount. So even with all these programmed elements, we know that there's going to be space to activate the site for not only the farmers market, but for future maybe events we don't even think of right now, right? That maybe at our upcoming visioning sessions, there's some additional opportunities. Now, there are some of those that are located on Water Street, but we have a lot of flexibility here. And I think that's the key is what's the, you know, what is this bringing us that we don't have now? And I think there's a huge opportunity for public engagement, a space to kind of anchor a lot of our downtown events, and then also still make some of those existing events like the farmers market continue to thrive. With that said, I think there's a large opportunity of putting winter activities on this site too. So the town square area that's in the center, it is size, so we could have an ice rink. We've been looking at the synthetic ice material that could essentially be able to be used pretty much no matter the weather condition. So those are things that we're continuing to kind of work through as we work through future phases. So I just want to kind of mention a couple of things. You know, we've been working with the design committee. A number of you here, you know, have provided input in the past and are part of our committee now. You know, we've been working through this process for many years now. Christy and I, you know, we talked long before COVID, right? And then COVID threw the brakes on everything. And I'm really excited for this project to come back. You know, and the structure of this project is very similar to other municipal projects. I'm doing a project right now in downtown Lake Orion with their Downtown Development Authority, and obviously visioning and public input and the process is all something that's very important to any government entity, not only the DDA, but also to you guys as a city council. So right now what you see here, all these pretty pictures are effectively 25%, right? Ben's schedule here represents about 25% of the way through. And what this gets us is enough to say, okay, this is what this project could be, right? And now we can take this and go out, you know, on the street. We can invite bidders to essentially say, who wants to be our construction partner, right? And I think that's going to be a really important step to validate not only budget, but also to validate schedule. You know, we would like to say we can do it all, but we do it with a team, right? And you guys are a part of that team. So when it's all said and done, we'd like to take this and introduce the project to a development partner and say, you know, what structure, what style, what do you think the budget is coming in at? You know, we feel with our expertise, you know, we're headed in the right track, but we want to also make sure we're headed on the right track moving forward too. So with that said, you know, the next phase takes these ideas and these pretty pictures and we dig a little bit deeper, right? We're going to start figuring out the HVAC system and maybe how many plugs, and every step of the way, right, we take that list of questions and slowly kind of narrow it down. As Ben mentioned, you know, once kind of that July date rolls around, we'll be kind of switching gears to the less pretty picture phase and more to the technical phase. And that's where we switch over to what we call bids and permits. And that becomes, you know, the technical drawings of instructing people how to build it, right? And what we're buying and what code items need to be incorporated into the design, right? We know there's ADA access already kind of preliminary thought out, but is this a concrete walk or is it brick? You know, all of those details are questions that are upon us and they will get answered. We have ideas of them, but it will, as we work through it, we'll get deeper into it. trying to think of some additional items to hit, but with that, we're very excited, and I commend not only the council but the DDA to continue to have this vision for this project. Ben is right. I've seen a lot of projects die by just the thought, right? And the fact that this project is continuing to move forward, not to mention after COVID, but with such great success, we're really excited for it. And we're excited, it was about 4 years ago, we moved our offices to downtown Rochester, and we're really excited to have something like this. I think it's an amazing opportunity. I'm happy you guys have had the vision and the foresight and worked hard to make the budget and everything work with it. So I commend you.
Thank you for your presentation. Council, are there questions, comments? Council member,
At what point?
I'm sorry.
Just a quick wrap up, and then, yeah, for sure, we'll do. Thanks, Scott, for that. We appreciate it. So really, at this point, like I said, this is more informational, but we're here to gather feedback. This is coming at a great time, because now, all of a sudden, I think everybody's sort of aligned, and we've alluded to it, and maybe not everybody in the audience may not know, but you had said we've been doing this for several years. Well, it's true. We had started setting money away for this project in 2018. And we had socked away about $1.3 million to do this project, and then COVID came along, and we had to redirect all of those funds to basically save the parking system and to save the downtown. So we exhausted all the money that we had saved up for this project the first time. So we're affectionately referring to this as Front Porch Project Town Square version 2.0. So you guys get that. So I just wanted to set that for the folks in the audience may not have known that. But and just to be clear, the time period where you're going to get into like sort of the design is going to come after you guys have said, okay, go ahead and spend the money. So this is going to happen probably, I think, end of August, September is going to be, you start getting into more of the nitty gritty concrete selection. But once again, at the end of the day, it's a 1 acre parcel. We don't have a lot of real estate to work with, and the real estate that we do have to work with is a significantly great challenge. So, I mean, I haven't seen anything yet, but I suspect land clearing and that's things a good chunk of the budget. But anyway, with that, I just wanted to thank you guys for that. And then, of course, we're here to answer any questions, all three of us. Actually, geez, you got everybody here tonight, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councilmember Trent.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I am well.
Hey, it's good to see everybody again. Great, thank you for the presentations, you and Christy and Scott. And it's been a pleasure working with you all, the hardworking and dedicated site committee team and the brainstorming sessions with Auger Klein and Land Design Studio. And it's a perfect time to have this community focus groups, so the attendees will not be starting from a blank canvas. I think this is a wonderful project, and I know it will be a wonderful addition to the downtown. Couple of things I don't understand. It's just in 1 acre argument. Another one is I don't know if size is a good comparison as to the cost of the project at this time could be upwards to $2 to $2.5 million. And for that amount of taxpayers' money, you would want to maximize the impact and the impact of the benefits of the downtown and what it means to residents, visitors, and businesses. And I know that you're taking that in consideration. The downtown public spaces are limited to a few pocket parks and a lot of parking lots that I know you guys take very good care of. And this is a clever way to get us some land to have some urban planning and placemaking to take to happen. I like and I do admire Sue Keels. I also understand the concern of getting bogged down in a perceived costly endeavor with an outside consultant that specializes in facilitated sessions with urban planning. And here are my thoughts on that. Number one, I know of local urban planners that will be efficient and effective, and they don't cost thousands of dollars, but will fulfill the need of and customize those needs to 2 or how many facilitated sessions that are required or needed. They gather data, they analyze it, they measure it, and the data-driven decision-making won't make it an Aztec. They will be objective, and they are experts, and the city and the taxpayers deserve that. They have experience in making this experience positive, as it is continuing to be, and knowing how to avoid the pitfalls for successful outcomes for projects of any size. They will provide the information needed to maximize the usage of this 1 acre to benefit the most people. And they are not there in a lot of places. There's colleges that have them. You're worried about affordability and that the email, we're not going, in the email that you sent, the inordinate cost, you were considering saying they were massive, but I think that some people perceive that this is a good-sized, massive project and that bringing in experts won't be a problem. But I think that's pretty much it. I really do think that I'd like to see how the data will be gathered, analyzed, measured, and aggregated, and done objectively.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. And as always, value the input. If you've got some contacts, I'm happy to reach out and see, but, like I said, I'm trying to navigate the waters here. I don't want to spend, $25,000, $30,000 on consultants for a project that, I just don't, I don't see the value in it. I think what we're doing is great, but if, I'm happy to entertain and talk to anybody, so please send them my way.
So my question is, how many sacred cows are there? Like, how many things in this, I've seen 3 or 4 times, are there sacred cows that they're baked in so that people understand what they're giving input on? Sure. Because, if I was just seeing this for the first time, I may think that's done. What type of input are you asking for?
So, great question. First of all, the space, what we can put there is dictated by the earth around it, right? So what we've done, what the designers have done, has tried to make as best use of the space as possible. Once again, it's only an acre. We got a building, we got a bathroom. We were able to use the grade on the west side, right? So to try and mitigate, because to the extent that we got to excavate and do all that stuff, that'll just blow the budget out of the water. So in terms of sacred cows, I don't know how to take that other than there's not a lot there for us to do other than if we don't know everything, right? So this is the beauty of having public involvement. Now, we were laying a plan out. This is what we think we want to do over the course of the next 2 meetings, and all the open stuff. We're going to get tons of information, which we'll report back on. If you think that would be done in an unfair manner, I don't know what to tell you. We're just going to be gathering it, and like I said, at least one or maybe both are going to be televised or at least recorded. So it'll be live. It's not like we're going to be, trying to shift the narrative. But if there's a concern there that, we needed to engage an outside firm to come in and sort of be there with clipboards and notepads and taking notes at the 2 sessions and gathering the data and then putting that together, I'm happy to talk to anybody. Send them my way. That'd be great.
It's not an unusual request to have something like this baked into a urban planning and placemaking project. Beacon Park is, I don't know, is that an acre? They used an outside consultant, Beacon Park and Campus Marshes as well. They were huge projects, but Beacon Park is another park in Detroit that they used another one with.
I'm happy to talk to anybody. Please send them my way.
But if it's happening this fast, you won't really have time to talk to a urban planner that does facilitate sessions if this is going out tomorrow.
I'll take your concerns back to the board and we'll see what happens. But I would love to have those contacts. Send them my way and I'll reach out and see if there's a there. If we can make it work, we'll absolutely try for sure. I promise you that.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Thank you. It's exciting, right? This is a pretty cool, exciting look for our downtown. To me, this is a once in 100 years, if that. A lot of cities, a lot of municipalities try to do something like this, and it either kind of comes off half-baked or it's not as cool. We want this to be really cool. So I'm really focused on the structure and concept, which is where we're at in the process, right? I'm not concerned about the color of the paint on the front porch. I want to make sure that this is the place that people just gravitate to. The flow from downtown where moms and her kids are saying, hey, I'm going to meet you at the front porch. And, those changes in elevation are not a hindrance. It draws people to this space. People come to downtown, but they need something to draw them there. And I think, over the next 100 years, the programming, the events, the things that we do there, that's going to change, whether it be swings or water or whatever. Those things are going to change. Those elements are going to change. But if we get this structure right, the flow, the accessibility, I'm curious about the change in traffic, having that one-way street. Maybe that works, maybe it's better. I'm not really sure about that. I am concerned about the overall impact on the parking system. Right now, we have capacity where we can take out this free lot. We have capacity in the system, but 20, 30 years from now,
I hope we have that problem.
I do too, but, you know, these are the things I'm
Sure.
wondering about. I also wonder about a maintenance plan.
Yeah, I do that.
You know, whatever we put in here, we have to be able to maintain it. What does that cost? That has to be built into
I
it.
mean, I was looking at the railings and thinking, oh, the skateboarders are gonna have a field day with this. So it's stuff like that that we have to kind of get through, and I'm really hopeful and optimistic that with the public input, we'll find creative ways. Well, you guys all know, we can't legislate morality, right? So we have to figure out ways to try and sort of disincentivize that. But as far as in this process, you know, between Nick and Chief Steve and Chief John, there's been a ton of input already. Like, for example, you probably can't see it, but over here, Chief Steve said, yeah, I need bollards right there.
Yeah.
Block
Yep.
cars from going in
Yep.
and going out that are removable. So we had them put in. But that driveway is wide enough to get fire trucks through, right? So, you know, there's a lot that we don't know yet. And it's all gonna be budget driven, right? So we could get in there and find out it's $2 million to just move dirt, and you're like, well, geez, now what, right? I'm praying and I'm hopeful and optimistic, and I agree with you 1,000,000% that this is, indeed, unless COVID version 2.0 comes along, which, dear God, please don't do that to us again. You know, this is a really good time to get this done. I think it would be, no pun intended, it would be a legacy of the Downtown Development Authority and the city of Rochester to leave this as a gift to, as a gift to our, you know, the future. When my kids are on council, they say, yeah, you know.
Right. So I'm not done. I'm not done, Ben. So, things I really like when I first look at this, green.
Yep.
Green, green, green.
100%.
Green is awesome.
Yep.
Shade is awesome. We got to get the engineering right. And now I'm going to throw in my personal 2 cents. That was my council hat, my personal 2 cents. I think we're missing water. You know, water draws people. So yes, you could add a fountain later in the center and plan for that, but we got to make sure that the
The pipes are there now.
infrastructure
Yeah,
is there.
Totally, gotcha.
I really would like to see 9 little water splash pad jets. You could put them in the bottom of that circle area, and then they're only activated in the summer. Really simple. So again, those are my 2 cents.
Gotcha.
Love water, and of course, we need to see the numbers.
100%. We're all singing from the same song sheet with respect to that, so, yeah, no, couldn't agree more. We need water in the middle so we can flood the ice rink and, right. Thank you for that.
Okay, go ahead, Ann.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So, I have to say, wow, this is awesome to see this, okay? I've been a fan of Campus Martius for a long time, and when I worked down there, that's where I went every day. So, a few things. One, I would rather see Water Street totally blocked off, personally. I think that way we can utilize it to its fullest and not confuse people with one way, okay? I don't want to have to like block it off maybe for an event one day, just keep it totally blocked off. It's really not going to interfere with anything. The next, love the ice rink idea too, to take us back to have it year-round type of activity. I would love to get a price on heated concrete all around there, only to keep it, only
Yeah, no,
because when you're
we talked
thinking-
about how we're gonna get
okay.
snow out of there, so that's.
Well, no,
that's on
I
the
just
list.
thought, long-term, if this is going to be a long-term project, what would that really cost? Might not be able to do it, but like to know.
Gotcha.
Because I think that way we'd be able to fully utilize it, and then less liability on the city, et cetera. I really, to Nancy's point, love all the green. I love what it looks like. I can envision this really sitting there. Somebody who walks it a couple times a day. I would like to see some bike racks somewhere along there for those who walk and bike.
We
There
can
are
put some
there.
I don't know.
They
There
got
are
bike
someplace.
racks.
But yeah, for sure.
Well, no, and I would like them to be artwork that is like, looks like our town too, right? So they would be a symbol of that. Also, I would like to get with the DDA, because the National Association of Realtors has placemaking grants, and this is the ideal project, now that I get to see it, to be able to see what we can do to get grant money to go towards this as well. I think that would be a great plus. I would really love to see this happen. I know there's a lot of ifs in that, and as far as the skating, skateboarders and that, once we put the skate park in, we won't need to worry about them.
Excellent, excellent, good point, valid point.
The water feature, I think would be awesome too, even if it was a water wall. But I wouldn't want that to interfere with us actually being able to do this because we're not in a summer state where you have good weather all the time. And then, let's see. I think that covers all of those, but I truly believe this is an awesome addition to this, and I do know it's going to enhance the downtown so much that it will make it a better place to come, to give people a place to go to.
Thank you for that. I had a couple, so in terms of the heated concrete, we did talk about that. It's a fortune.
I know, I'm sure it is. That's okay.
It is
I
a
just-
literal fortune. So we will address it. And I was kind of joking. I said, all right, well, we'll just get an army of like dudes with, the Toro snow blowers will blow it to the center and take it off. So it's on the list. It's those things now that we figured this out. Now we have to figure out how it's going to be, we're going to live with it, 365 days a year. So DPW, city administration is on it, and we're working through that right now.
And I guess one other thing though too, I think that what is missing, if you think back to, because I love some of the designs you put around there with the swings and things like that, but if we were to utilize this so people can come there for lunchtime and that, since so many restaurants are right there, if we had some sort of tables around there that were, right in the ground, no one can take them, they're just like cemented in, to where that would help even for movies in the moonlight or setting up for anything else.
Yeah,
If
for
people
sure.
had a group of people
Yeah,
there.
we actually talked about, and Scott didn't cover it because it's not on here, but it was kind of came with the discussion during the DDA meeting, but using these sail-type structures to create more shade. So, because right now, what you're looking at is, this is like after we get done building it, but we have to build it and put trees in knowing that they're not going to be little baby trees in 20
Right.
years, right? It's all going to grow up. So it's dealing with that interim part. So we're acutely aware of the shade issue, so that was like super high on the list. We want to make sure we get that. And Mayor Pro Tem Salvia brought up a great point. So our job now is to make sure that we're laying the infrastructure in place, so if down the road, let's say that the budget gets done and we can't afford to do a splash pad or whatever that water is, I can run the plumbing, we can run the
Right.
plumbing now, and then when we have budget, then we can go ahead and do that. So that's kind of what I refer to as sort of the phased approach. So the biggest takeaway so far is let's just make sure, because also too, I love Campus Martius, and I loved when they had those glass igloo things,
Yes.
And all that is just stubbing out electric,
Yeah.
along the way. So I want to make sure we do stuff like that, so when, our kids are up on council and on DDA and they want to do something cool, that, oh, I'm so glad that my mom and dad thought about doing this, right? So, 100%. And then in terms of the budget, we're actually going to do it so each section has a price tag on it. So as we go through that, so be expecting that when you see it, because I've asked for, all right, all-in number about how much is this, how much is this, how much is this, and we'll go through that. So you'll be able to see and get through that. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah, just one other thing, the size of the front porch, and I guess this is more to Christie though, the building itself, so is that going to be enough space for us for future?
Yeah,
to- whatever we're going
what's the
to do?
program that we do in the EBT?
Oh, yeah, we do double up food books and electronic benefit transfers.
Oh, okay,
So
okay.
there's like a little office there that the
Right.
farmer market uses, and then they do the government-funded stuff in there. So
Right.
that's all part of the organization as well. So, and it's deceiving because it looks like we're building a house on it, but it's really, you got it
Right,
at a
right.
half off sale.
Like Disney.
No, I think it's, and I love the ideas and the murals, all of that, just to incorporate the whole area.
Well, we're trying to do it so they don't get tagged, so.
Further
Just being realistic.
discussion,
Anyone, I spoke a lot, so I will go last.
Councilmember Trent.
Oh, anything? Okay, okay, great. So we will get into more of these specifics. I've been in these meetings. Yes, I did talk about shade elements,
ton of it.
extremely important. People want to get shelter from the storm and the sun. Kid-friendly elements was my phone blowing up for me. And at one point, there was a slide that was shown that had some rock climbing for kids, and that the kids are there are rocking chairs, and my concern is the kids will play with the rocking chairs, or they'll play with anything they can find, if there is no small playscape or something that you take these kids downtown to do. And they will also, people will stay longer at the farmer's market, I was told, if they, tell their husband or significant other, take the kids over to here while I finish shopping, so maybe the farmers could sell more stuff. And that is happening in Nashville, Tennessee, at their farmer's market. They actually have a little playground next to it, but we only have an acre, I understand. The other thing was the band shell in the park. It has, so this is going to be for bands. So is this going to have like a sound or the height? I mean, is this actually for, like, it's cool looking, I get it. But we hadn't really gotten into that discussion about that. The acoustics, the lighting, the speakers. Like if I'm a band and I had a choice, I just want to make sure all those things are there for me. I might go hightailing it over to the park.
Yeah. So I think the idea of what the front porch is something different, right? Something that we don't have in the community currently. So there will be a large height in the front porch, maybe similar to what we have in this room, but it's not going to be a band shell, right? It isn't meant to be that same acoustic setup as you would get in a band shell or an amphitheater, right? It's to have something different, and that's purposely so, there can be a band playing on the front porch, right? You had mentioned Nashville, right? There's a lot of venues down there that are effectively just that, right? They're a front porch. If you've been to 20 Front Street in downtown Lake Orion, that is not a stereotypical music venue, and that's kind of the joy and the gravitation towards it. And what that will also allow us to do is the day-to-day usage of this will also still make it welcoming and inviting. Similar to the band shell or, up in Orion Township, they have their large amphitheater hill, right? You don't go up there and sit on it during the day at a bistro table, right? This will allow us to actually program that space day to day, go grab some coney dogs and sit up here at a table and enjoy yourself,
Coney
right?
dogs, right,
what we're
Tony?
hoping for.
Yeah, the tables and eating. And I mean, it's for remote workers. I went to the, seniors, people coming for lunch. And the amphitheater, we already have one at Lions Park. So, I've talked about that before, and it's not used very much. And if you don't have shade, why would you go to another place to eat in the sun? We got benches all over downtown you can eat in the sun.
Yeah, and some of these elements, right, are as we're talking, right, we want to make sure this is the lasting legacy of the downtown, and that is a large grade change there, right? So instead of just making it a hill or having it be a big wall, right, we want it to be a spot that could be activated in working with the DDA over the years, right, there is that need for a space downtown that can pull people off of Main Street, and that can be essentially a natural amphitheater, but day to day, right, it's just a fun place to sit in the trees, right? It isn't just one thing, it's many.
Yeah, well, just going back to the kids, basically all the pictures have the kids standing around, so I think I hopefully made my point. Thank you.
We're going to hear a lot of that in our public input.
Just getting you ready.
Yeah,
Understood.
No, it's good, thank you. And then, so two things I asked in the budget too to put, maybe we can get our friends at Solaronic to sponsor it, but to put those overhead heaters under the porch.
Oh, yeah. Infrared heating,
Yes, right, so those kind of things.
Topgolf.
Fundraising, so let's talk about that for a second.
Sure. So when you're talking about grants, definitely give me that information. I'd love to hear about that. That is something I know that we've heard up here a lot, is that if we're going to go after something like this, then even though we do have funding, how else could we get more money so we leave a little bit of money in the bank? I know Councilmember Sage was concerned about that at our last meeting. So to answer that concern, about a month ago, I was invited to a meeting with Nick, the mayor, Marcy, and Alec, and Congressman James and his team. We had submitted the original drawings, not the pretty pictures you see here, but some of the original 2020 drawings of the Front Porch Project, as it was called at the time. And I had the opportunity to sit down with him for about 90 minutes and really talk to him about why we wanted this, why we thought thought it was important to our community, our stops and starts along the way, how we used our money for COVID relief rather than this project. And he really got excited about the project, told us that he would like us to submit it into his portal for consideration for federal funding. So we made sure that that was already in place. He asked me to write an additional narrative from the conversation that we had just had to add that color to the conversation. We just got notification last week that we did make his final cut of federal appropriation requests. So he has that on his list for $1 million grant. It is not guaranteed money. We should know by the end of the summer, but we are optimistic. In our meeting, we also talked about working across the aisle. So he also had offered to partner with Gary Peters and Debbie Stabenow. He has reached out to them. We received notification at the end of last week that they also have included our project on their list as well. That does not mean that we get $1 million times 3. I know, I was looking at Nancy with that one, no.
I was gonna
No.
say.
I'm in marketing, but I can do math, but yes, so that is not what happens, but it does increase our chances, so if one of their requests is not passed, then the other one could be, or they could split it 3 ways to get us to our $1 million. But we won't have any answers till the end of the summer, but we're already on top of that. In addition to that, Main Street Oakland County, we asked about this at our summit that Mike was at, and there are some placemaking dollars, a placemaking match program that's supposed to be rolling out through Main Street Oakland County sometime this year, specifically for placemaking projects. All the Main Street communities had submitted projects up to about $20 million of projects across 26 different communities. And we're hoping that that will be coming online, so we'll be able to apply for that. And then, of course, REP 2.0 out of MEDC is, I'm on the webinar this Wednesday, and then that is going to open for May 1st for applications, close June 30th, and that is for placemaking specifically a minimum of $250,000, a maximum of $1 million, so we'll be going after that as well. So even though we are on a parallel path of trying to figure out how much this costs, I am on my own path of trying to find ways to pay for it regardless of what the cost may end up being.
Great.
Free money is my favorite kind of money. Yeah, for sure. And then also too, the project is split up into elements, so we might be able to get some ADA access dollars for like one section of it. So I can promise you that, these guys will leave no stone unturned as to trying to get it funded. Councilmember Sage's point is spot on. We don't want to drain the swamp, no pun intended, to pay for this and have no reserves in case, God forbid, something else happens. But the same token is that I think we got some good momentum, right? We got a shovel-ready project that's ready to go, and I think it ticked a lot of the boxes for those that are in charge of moving, grants forward. So we're, prayerful and optimistic, and we'll see what happens.
Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ben.
Yep.
It's kind of nice to see some pictures now.
Yeah, right.
So we
Sorry.
kind of have an understanding of what we're thinking about. And I appreciate that you guys did take to heart my suggestion the first time we talked about this. So let's talk about the timeline, on the project timeline. So I wrote down 3 dates. July 24th, where I guess we're going to have some kind of design concept costing,
You'll
an
have
estimate?
this with the price tag attached to it.
Okay. So with that, so that we maintain the transparency, I would like the supporting numbers to the budget, the DDA budget, and how this is funded, right? So we can compare.
Oh, for sure, yeah. You'll have, I think the way it's going to go is that you'll have that along with our request for the budget amendment. And I think those two will be together.
Okay. Then the planning commission,
They're the 7th, and then you guys are the 14th.
so that'll be the first site plan submission. So it'll
yeah, I
have
think
already
so.
gone through Vidya, and we don't know?
It goes before planning commission, their first meeting in August, which is the 7th, I believe, right?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, it'll follow the normal procedure. We'll get this to Vidya. She'll write a report, ask to schedule a public hearing for September then. It'll take 2 meetings, just like anything else.
Right. So are we getting the cart before the horse here? So before we have a public hearing on approving the site plan, you're going to be coming to us for a budget amendment to lock money in place, which if the site plan doesn't get approved, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I know, it's kind of goofy. So perhaps you can condition the approval on that.
Right.
And that way it would just sort of take care of
Okay.
it. We've got multiple masters to keep happy here, so I'm just trying to do that. But yeah, I think that if you did that and just approved it contingent on planning commission, because we're not gonna do it when planning commission says no anyway, right? So, but yeah, no, I think we can easily do that just by having that little caveat in there.
Okay, thank you.
You got-
Councilmember Peterson?
Thank you, Mayor. So, no, I really do like this concept. I was thinking at first that it was going to be an enclosed one, because that's how Nashville's is enclosed. And I'm glad that it's not, because we get to have, the year-round use. If you do the ice rink and everything else, I think that will be a better year-round, and then we can hold fire and ice, and you have everything like at one spot. I think that would be ideal. So, I thank you for the great design that you guys came up with.
I'm an accountant, man. I had nothing to do with it.
Well, of course not. Okay, everybody else, you guys are great. Thank you.
Anything further from the council? I'd just like to say this is the second time I've seen it. It's a very exciting project. I hadn't really thought about it, but in thinking about Marilyn's idea, it does seem to make some sense to me to get a professional person in to mediate this, not one of us. I guess I consider Sue Neal one of us, to maybe come in, have some different eyes. I don't know if that pushes this back or not.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, send those things to me and I'll reach out tomorrow morning and we'll see if we can put something together.
Other than that, we're looking forward to the numbers and moving forward.
That makes two of us. That makes about 20 of us, I should say. So, yeah, no, it's good. I mean, it's a great, it's a lot of fun, but it's all fun and games until you start seeing the budgets.
Very good, thank you.
It'll be a
Thank you,
great
and sorry for
project.
taking so much time, so.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate all the
Now,
work you
everyone
guys.
better not leave.
Yeah.
You gotta stay for the rest of the fun agenda.
All right, so are there any further public comments out there for something that's not on the agenda? Brian, we're good?
We're all set.
Okay, so next we move on to the approval of the minutes. Consideration of the minutes of the regular meeting of April 10th, 2023.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson, support by Councilmember Albrecht. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen.
Yes.
Savia.
Yes.
Albrecht.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, you have approval of the consent agenda. The first item is a review to authorize the police chief to sign an intergovernmental agreement regarding the Youth Police Academy program in partnership with the City of Birmingham, Auburn Hills, and the Township of Bloomfield Hills. Next, we have a consideration of a special event application from Woodhouse Day Spa and New Day Foundation to hold a Color of Wellness 5K run on Saturday, July 29th in the Municipal Park and Trails. Next, we have a consideration of a special event application from Anna Marie St. Clair to hold the I Bike for Paul bike ride on August 6th in the Municipal Park and the Paint Creek Trail. Next is a consideration of a special event application from the Rochester Neighborhood House to hold the Scare Away Hunger 5K starting and ending at the Municipal Park on Sunday, October 8th. Again, everybody needs to get their running gear going. And next is review of the current 2023 event calendar.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve all but A.
Okay, so a motion to approve B through E,
Support?
support by the Mayor Pro Tem. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen.
Yes.
Savia.
Yes.
Albrecht.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson on the Police Youth Academy.
Yeah, so basically, it's just a comment. I wanted to say thank you to the chief for putting this together. I think it's important that not only have the Citizen Police Academy, but that we start and have this youth academy as well for the police force. I think it's a great, great program, so motion to approve.
Support?
Motion by Councilmember Peterson, support by Mayor Pro Tem Salvia. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen.
Yes.
Savia.
Yes.
Albrecht.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you. Now to old business and table items is a request to update the City of Rochester's Title V non-discrimination plan. Human Resource Director Joellen, welcome.
Hi, welcome Mayor and Council. Thank you to Councilmember Albrecht for his suggestions. I talked to the DOT contact and he said that he's going to change his template and update that, so.
The tail wagged the dog, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So just adding some new items to the list of types of discrimination. So the document you have before you shows all of the things that were before, but in red line. So there were some very minimal changes, but they were updates that were made about 2 years ago with Attorney Krotz's office. So he was kind enough to send those over. And we put together the entire document for your review, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Thank you. Thank you for the red line version. It's really helpful. In particular, I noticed on the Appendix F, which is page 92, where it talks about our boards and commissions, that the representation of minorities will be evaluated. We do not have that on our boards and commissions application, so I'm assuming that this will be done by observation.
We can certainly do that.
I did ask our HR guru, and that was his recommendation.
Okay.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Yeah, when the three other boards I'm on, nonprofit boards, we do it through observation because when you're applying for a board or a commission, you're not filling in all the kinds of things that are necessary. So I would think that'd be our way of adhering to that provision of this Title VII.
I agree. I think that's a great move.
Okay, and so with that, I believe we need a motion to approve this.
Yes.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem, support by Councilmember Albrecht. Discussion?
Mayor?
Councilmember Albrecht.
I just want to thank City Attorney Crott and Joe Ellen for putting this together. This is long overdue, and I'm glad to see it finally come to fruition, since it was adopted in June of 2013 and revised in 2023. So only took us 10 years, so.
Sure, Master Plan.
I think the city survived those 10 years. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, if would you would entertain doing the liquor license transfer before the lighting? I see the gentleman sitting here, and it's your call, but, because that would be after the
Well,
lighting.
The liquor license people told me they wanted to stay.
Ah,
for that.
okay.
No, they didn't. Yes, we will do that. So we will do item B first. Public hearing for a liquor license application to transfer the liquor license from the City Tavern at 421 South Main Street to JVY Holdings. Mr. City Manager.
Yep, so Chief, you have anything to say about this? Yep, so we're excited to have new owners, it looks like, of the City Tavern. I think this is a step forward, so we will know this is really going to happen. And they can talk a little bit about what the plan is for the facility. And I know Chief's done the background work on the legal part of this, that we have to have a public hearing to actually make this happen.
Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. Yes, we presented to you a couple meetings ago, kind of the background investigation part of it, found no issues to report. We're ready to move forward, and there's a simultaneous Liquor Control Commission investigation that's also going forward prior to final approval of the transfer. As the manager indicated, the parties are here today and certainly available to answer any questions and talk about the future of the new facility, Red Rock Bar and Grill.
Thank you. Would the applicants like to say something? Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Joey Kedgeboom. My address is 803 West Big Beaver, Suite 202, Troy, Michigan, 48084. As you're aware, the application has been submitted. There is a recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission. My client, Mr. Yaldo, is here with me tonight to answer any operational questions you may have of him, but from a background perspective, he's a local resident. He lives just within miles of this facility. This deal for him has been a long time coming. It's something that he's been negotiating probably about a year, Vinny. It's been probably over a year. We were finally able to strike a deal with the current owners. It's something he's extremely excited about, something he's going to make his goal to truly make a place for family to come in or just colleagues to come in after work, enjoy a beer and a meal. There are some planned changes to signage and some of that stuff, but in terms of the operational side of things, there's really not going to be any major changes to the interior of the property. It's going to stay as is. There will be some changes to the menu that will eventually progress once we get a little bit of more feedback from patrons and understand what it is that's going well and what it is that's not going well at the facility. Mr. Yaldo has a history of very successful entrepreneurial endeavors that he's taken on, and this is just the latest for him. Again, he's a local resident. His kids belong in the Rochester schools. right down the street from him in his backyard, and it's something that he's going to make his primary focus going forward, something he's going to be devoted to and intends to make a true asset to the community. That's really all I have. Yes.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant, Councilmember Albrecht?
Yes, welcome to Rochester. What other establishments do you operate? Where are they, and some of the names we might recognize?
A little bit of commercial real estate, but recently sold I was in the wireless business in Nevada, California, and Arizona. Recently sold that business, and we also own and operate a pita chip manufacturing facility out of Clinton Township. We mostly co-pack for other private labels, but we also have our own brand. No Big Splash, you probably never heard of them, but we have a pita chip factory that's primarily our main focus. My brother, who will be operating the place, has the experience in the kitchen and in the bar business.
So this will be your first foray into a restaurant bar operation?
Mine personally, yes.
Okay, good.
I've got good support, thankfully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so Madam Clerk, we need to have a public hearing?
Public hearing.
Okay, so thank you. We at 8:27, we are going to open a public hearing. Is there anybody who would like to comment on the change in liquor license? Not at 8:27, the public hearing is closed. Council.
Motion.
Councilmember
Sorry, go ahead.
Sage.
Motion to approve the transfer of the liquor license.
Motion by Councilmember Sage. Support by Councilmember Peterson. Discussion. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you, and good luck on your new endeavor, and welcome to Rochester. Thank you.
We look forward to the ribbon cutting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Took the words out of my mouth.
Thank you. Okay, now we're on to the public hearing for proposed amendment to zoning ordinance, Article 23, Performance Standards, Section 2306, Light and Illumination. So, Mr. City Manager, if you want to kind of give an introduction, then we will open the public hearing. Anybody who wants to speak can speak, and then we will close the public hearing, and then council will decide what council wants to do. So, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's been a journey. We've had discussions for years, literally 3 years, I believe, about this concern, driven pretty much by one resident, but her voice was well-informed, and she had her patience, and we worked our way through the Planning Commission. Went to Planning Commission, they took no action, and then there was a gap of time, and then it was brought up again, and City Council directed us to go back to the Planning Commission to see if we could come up with something to address this issue. So it went back through the process for the second time. Attorney Crott, very patient, working with the background that we had on this, and got to this point where now they made a recommendation to the City Council with and you can see in your packet, we put all the residents' concerns and pictures and all that good stuff in there. It's been posted, notified folks. I know there's people in the neighborhood also that are affected that are here to get to this point tonight. So really, it is a City Council decision. Planning Commission said they passed on it pretty much and got it to this point in the legal system so that we can make a decision at this board, your honorable body. So Attorney Crott is very versed in this. He'll go over the highlights of that and some of the ramifications of what could come of this, and then we'll go from there.
Attorney Crott?
Yes, I won't go through my entire memo, but if you call it a couple meetings ago, specifically on March 27, City Council considered the draft ordinance amendment that was pushed forward by Planning Commission. If you recall, the task of the Planning Commission was to consider it, conduct the required public hearings, and then move it forward to City Council. In my memo for the last meeting, I did summarize the Planning Commission's comments that were made at that meeting, and then I put the ordinance together for City Council. City Council, at this last meeting, had a very robust discussion in different components of what was presented. And the direction from City Council at that point was to was to move this matter for public hearing and first reading if the city council so chose to proceed in that fashion, but to also incorporate the comments of the various city council members. I hope that I've captured all of them. There were all different aspects of this. I don't know if it's worth going through the comments, but I will quickly do that if city council would like. One item of note is of big note is in subsection 4A. There was a request to remove the threshold of 100 watts or the equivalent, therefore changing the ordinance to require shielding of all exterior lighting, regardless of wattage, shielded so it's directed away and shielded from other residential lots so that no direct light falls onto the other residential lot. Before it was a minimum of 100 watts, or if it was a spotlight or floodlight, this version took out that qualifier. In 4B, the request from multiple city council members was, to keep the initiation of the action resident driven, to remove the word complaint. So I use the words enforcement is not initiated by the city, but will be resident initiated. It's not a complaint, it's initiated to review those lights. Another, in that same section, the concern was raised that the city council members wanted to have it, resident initiated, but it would only be by those that are adjacent or directly impacted by that light, not someone who happens to live on the other side of the city who decides to drive around and say there's lots of problems with lights. So that has been modified. So another change in 4C then was to, we'll call this the compliance period. So this would put it 60 days from the notice from the city that a fixture is in violation, to get that situation either shielded, replaced, or otherwise brought into compliance with the ordinance. Then one council member had expressed interest. In fact, there was a comment at Planning Commission too about the use of warmer lights. I don't think there was a consensus necessary to require, because there wasn't a discussion of certain levels, but an encouragement to use warmer lights for various reasons. So I included that in a new subsection 4E. The use of warmer lighting is encouraged for all, and I hope that satisfies that concern. Another issue that was raised regarding the exemptions to this, or exceptions. There was a lot of discussion of, what about all the lights? The one, when you take out the threshold of 100, does that mean that any light has to be shielded? And I responded in the affirmative. If you do that, then yes, if you don't have the exceptions in there. So the exceptions in here that we put in here is a temporary lighting. There was a concern of what does that mean? So we put in examples of that, which is seasonal decorative lighting and patio string lighting. That would be considered a temporary light that wouldn't need shielded. There was a concern that if we removed all of the thresholds, that the string patio lights, for instance, that was an example used, or Christmas lights, that would require shielding. So we put that as an exemption to that shielding requirement, and put a limit on there of 90 days. That's not magical. It's just it's something, a suggestion based on discussion. And that there was a request to have a time limitation. So we inserted a 12 a.m., so midnight to 6 a.m. for temporary lighting to be turned off. Finally, and there was a request to have an exemption for lights that are motion sensor activated. So that you see that in a new subsection 5F. But with the caveat that they be activated only by movement on that property, and have a turn-off. I selected, I did a quick search of what's typical for a motion sensor, and my determination that an average was about a minute after the activity was over, so I put that in there as a placeholder. So therefore, if we read these kind of in context with each other, so all exterior lights that face residential lots would need to be shielded, except for those that are exempted out. And also one of the exemptions is is light sensor. So if for instance, a floodlight that had a motion sensor on it that met with these limitations, then that would be exempted from having to be shielded or directed downward. So I truly hope that I captured all of the comments and suggestions of City Council. So I leave it to City Council after public hearing to say which ones, all, none, how you would like to proceed. So I was a scrivener.
Thank you. So before we start the public hearing, any questions for the city attorney? Councilmember Albrecht?
I thought I read it somewhere, and I can't find it here. Many of our houses have the carriage lights on either side of our garage. It'd be hard to shield those. Was that addressed in here anyway, Attorney Crott?
That was a very big topic of conversation. However, one of the requests was to remove the minimum threshold, the 100-watt or equivalent threshold. So under this version, all carriage lights would need to be shielded.
Councilmember Sage.
Could we provide a caveat to that? So my understanding of reading the revised ordinance is, yes, it brings this residential to residential ordinance in line with the commercial to residential ordinance. But the big difference is it is resident initiated. It does not mean everyone in the city has to put a shield on every light on their house. In the instance where there is something that cannot be worked out amongst neighbors, then there is a remedy for a resident to say, please direct your light away from my property. So I think that's misleading to say that every light in the city has to be shielded now.
Mr. City Attorney?
If that was how you read that, that was not my intent. My intent was to say what the application was, because the question was, would this apply to carriage lights? And it would. So whether or not someone has to tomorrow go shield it, that would not be the case. If someone says that light bothers me, they would need to shield it. So yes, that it is still resident initiated, but it would apply as written to every carriage light that's not otherwise directed or shielded.
Good. Councilmember Gould?
Could I ask, what does direct vicinity mean?
Mr. City Attorney? Good question. Is that what?
Sometimes you put in vague language for, So rather than trying to list, that's the best I could come up with at the time to figure out who's impacted. Again, who's impacted? You could ask me the same question, like, well, what does impacted mean, right? So that's the next question, right? So I don't know how to further define that other than when enforcement would have to be, if there was a resident-initiated action, the city code would need to go out and say, is this person in the vicinity? And, maybe that's redundant to directly impacting. Those are the parameters that, we could say within, we could remove those vague language and put in, for instance, within X amount of feet. The problem I see with that end of it is that I think that would, that's, to be honest, it's an easier to have an objective standard like that. But it may be that if we put in within 100 feet or within 200 feet, someone at 250 feet says that's still really bright in my house, and we're back with the same thing. So Would my preference be, my preference is always the more objective, the standard. So I would prefer, if you're asking me my preference, and on enforceability, I would say that within a certain foot from the light would be an easier one to regulate.
Councilmember Trent.
Yes, I was the one who mentioned the use of warmer lighting, so thank you for adding it in there. And the reason was, if you don't like moths and flying insects, they are attracted to the UV rays of the blue lights and other insects as well. So the warmer lighting protects them and you, and saves the pollinators.
Okay, we will now open the public hearing. I'd just like to say before, this has been a issue that's been active for a while. I know there's people who are very passionate about this issue. So I would ask, when you come up to speak, that you are addressing the city council. You're not addressing any of your neighbors. That's not what this is about. We're not talking about other issues right now. We're just talking about this lighting issue. But again, I plead to everybody to be calm and pleasant and address us and do not address other people in the audience. So we're going to open the public hearing at 8:42. And if you would like to come up and speak on this subject, please do. Come on up. You don't have to.
Oh, Christian's here.
Christian, welcome.
Hi, good evening. Good everyone. Good evening. Christian Hauser, 515 7th Street. Here, not as a representative of Planning Commission, but by myself. But I want to go through a couple points here. And most importantly, I want to tell Mr. Krant that my criticisms and objections about the ordinance are not directed at the author, because you've been given an impossible task, and that is to put together an ordinance that's been kicked around for 3 to 4 years through various commissions and various boards with all different kinds of ideas. So that's point number one. Point number two is, throughout all of this process, we've repeatedly heard from the individual who is going to be tasked to implement this if it is passed, and that is Chief Cieslak. And the idea is, give the city an ordinance that can actually be enforced. And in this particular instance, I think there's so many irregularities, so much vagueness, so much open-ended criteria that it's more problems than it does than a solution. And so, for instance, and I'm just going to kind of go through this a couple times, or in order here. So we've got exterior lights, and as Commissioner Sage said, every light in this city would be impacted if the neighbor complained about it. So 10,000 houses are going to have to deal with some type of shielding. And I don't even know what kind of shielding you could get for the front of your carriage lights on your garage. Okay, so I don't know if it's hand fabricated. I don't know if there's some source for this, but this is not the kind of fabrication that you just go off the shelf and buy for your carriage lights on your house. More importantly, we've gone from the 100 watt standard to the no direct light standard. And at least with 100 watts, we're able to identify a metric. We're able to identify an amount of light, a quantity that the chief can show up at the house with his light meter and establish, yes, this is more than 100 watts, or frankly, the foot candle, which is an ordinance in effect. So there is an ordinance on the books right now that says 1 foot candle cannot pass onto the other person's property above 5 feet. We haven't. So there's an ordinance on the book. What's happened here is that wasn't necessarily, I'm going to be very careful. I don't want to start isolating issues, but it's been gradually getting tighter and tighter. So we have the foot candle, now it's 100 watts, now it's no direct light. And it's getting more compressed, and the goalpost continues to move in order to find a solution to this issue. I think the chief is going to have a very difficult time going to a house and determining in his own mind what is no direct light. The next part, and Commissioner Godu talked about it, the direct vicinity versus directly impacted. What's the radius? I can see the tennis court lights from my house. Well, I'm 400 feet away, but I can still see them. Where does the line get drawn in that? Number 4C, candidly, I'm concerned about the retroactive application to this ordinance. I'm certainly not a constitutional law scholar like Jeff, but I can tell you that I do have a concern that we're now going to mandate that a non-conforming light must be removed or brought into compliance. So we're making residents who may have owned a house for 20, 30 years, who have never had a problem, now they either have to remove it or go spend money to put a shield on there. Number 4D is, this is to be read in conjunction with other ordinances in the book. Again, we have an ordinance 2306 that says 1 foot candle from property to property, and that includes residential. 4C, the use of warmer lighting is encouraged for all exterior lights. Again, how do you enforce encouragement in an ordinance? That's like saying we encourage people not to speed through downtown. Well, that's why you have a speed limit. So when the policeman pulls you over, he can tell you right away you were going in excess of 25 miles an hour. You don't leave it up to the officer to say, well, you were speeding to me, so here's your ticket. And then when you go through for the exemptions, and I'll make it quick here, the temporary lighting is limited to 90 consecutive days. When I hear temporary lighting in the context that the city attorney was talking about, I think these Edison bulb string lights that many people have in their backyard. So if I understand this correctly, those are only going to be allowed to be used for 90 days during the year. Memorial Day to Labor Day is 98 days. So you're telling people right now in the city, you don't even get to use those for the summer. It's bad enough we're locked up all winter, but summertime, you only get 90 days, so use them wisely. And again, I appreciate the concern that the city council has. I considered the fact that the planning commission had on this. This is not the solution to the problem. There's a better fix, and this is not it. So I'll defer to you. I have no idea how you guys are gonna handle this, but just as a resident, I think this is a non-starter. So thank you.
I have a direct question.
For me?
I do.
Mr. Sage?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. I'm sorry, I thought that was from over there, sure.
I'm reading 2306 as it sits on the books now.
Yeah.
And I'm missing the part where it even addresses residential. It addresses commercial,
Right.
but it doesn't address residential to residential. So there's where I'm confused.
Sure, okay, so
Go ahead.
I've got section 2306.
Right.
And then if I go to section 3,
Yeah.
it says exterior lighting in all districts.
Okay.
And then you say exterior lighting shall be arranged as far as practical, and I'm jumping ahead, and in no case shall more than 1 foot candle of power of light cross a line 5 feet above the ground in a residential district.
So before that, it says exterior lighting shall be arranged so far as practical to reflect light away from any residential use. Okay.
But then go to the next page, and then letter C.
But wait.
I'm sorry.
Subsection B then specifically states a commercial building, multifamily dwelling in any district that abuts and faces a single-family dwelling. It never mentions residential to residential in here. And that's what we're trying to address.
But it also says, if you go down to letter C, standard lights from single-family residents abutting other residences in a residential district are subject to the 1 foot candle power limitation subsection 3A above,
Correct.
but are exempt from the remaining provisions of this subsection 3. I read this to say that resident to resident has a 1 foot candle limitation 5 feet at the property line. That's how I interpret this.
Understood. So
Okay.
here's my problem.
Sure.
So, Councilman Say, what, do we want to wait till we get to our
Okay, we can.
discussion?
All right.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, all right, any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. This is a new group. My name's Richard Blosnick. I'm the one you're about to discriminate against. We know this issue, and I'm not going to point out any individuals like you asked.
Thank you.
Very kindly of doing so.
Thank you.
This squeaky wheel's been going on for a very long time. As we saw in the notes that I provided before, I'm using desktop lights equivalent, 40 watts, something you use that are for a read in your house. Obviously, we keep seeing, like was noted before, the situation keeps changing to modify what one individual wants. And it's been that way for a very long time. And very surprising to me today, There's a lot of other community members from my neighborhood here. I was not expecting it, did not ask anybody to come. This is my battle at this point. I still fit within all the requirements, but she keeps changing them to isolate and force you guys to then discriminate against me. Make me pay money for no reason. I'm doing it what I'm able to do. It's very low. I don't think you can get any lower light bulbs than I have. To shield, what is exactly the definition of shield? Is it frosted glass? Because I have that, which also you cannot see a light bulb through it. You know, recently there was a light turned on over there outside while somebody left their house. I was absolutely fiberglassed when I know it's 100 watts or more. And it does not fit the requirement that she's asking for. I'm not going to complain. There's other things I could complain about. I could become a second squeaky wheel really very badly. There's many issues we have outside of this one that are uncalled for, that situations where we need to look at ordinances. You know, I'm a dog owner. If I walk my dog, I have to pick up the feces that falls on the ground. That's my response, right?
We're sticking to the lights.
Yes.
Thank you.
I am. So in this scenario, I will be the only one affected, not a door next to me, not the other one next to me, not the person behind me. It's going to be directly myself. And then it's going to be with the ordinance, with your 90-day compliance, she's going to attack all of the other houses around that have those. Now you're going to have another squeaky wheel going after something else. You know, other people getting upset. But I'm the one. I'm a single father of 3 children, and I want lighting around my house. And I want it to protect the area, because if you go down that stretch, you can see nobody else has them on because of a reason. It's not because you're changing ordinance now, it's because we try to get along. And 99.9% of the residents, we all get along. We hang out, we talk, we have good times, we have block parties. It's one bad person, unfortunately. And unfortunately, you guys are the ones dealing with it and have been dealing with it for years. And I ask you kindly, stop. Put a stop to it. Otherwise, you know, there's a lot of ordinances I could change that would make huge arguments in here and drag this on for so much longer. I mean, I personally don't want feces in my yard, sprayed cats in my, spray on my house. My kids complain of urine smell because, you know, I'm not going to get off topic.
Thank you.
Sorry. But again, I'm not the only one that has that complaint. We can come and start making these complaints and causing wasted resources, which we're doing here now. The same as if, you know, 911's call is being made for smoke that they know by looking out the window, there's a bonfire. They're enjoying themselves. It's wasted city resources. We have a city council that, and a police department, no offense, chief, and everybody else that's back there, and I'd like to speak with you when you're done, that are not standing up for us. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's a 911 call being made. That call, and correct me if I'm wrong, is a misdemeanor when it's a false 911 call. Misdemeanor, there's jail time and fine that could be applied. We let it happen countless of times. Look into the records. You have them.
Richard, have you stated your address for the
I'm
record?
402 Taylor. So I live on the corner of 4th and Taylor.
Thank you.
My garage is directly across from her driveway. And if you looked at the house or walked by it, you can see that what would be considered direct light, because 9 months of the year, we actually do have leaves. It's totally covered up. You can't even see the house. So a direct light wouldn't even get through the leaves. So I agree that the ordinance still isn't right. There needs to be a measurement, like was stated. What is the measurement going to be? When you walk across the street from one house to another, what is that measurement? I guarantee my 40 watts are going to still apply. So we're going to change your ordinance, make you guys do all this work, and I'm probably still going to fit within. Unless you force me to go put shields on. But again, then, at that point, I've just installed security cameras on my house because I need that protection from the situation. They all have flooded spotlights. They're all turned off by the motion right now. They will not turn on if somebody walks by. But if that's okay, I will turn those back on, and they're a lot brighter than what I have. It will light up my whole yard. And for the minute that it's on. And anytime somebody passes my corner, which I'm at a corner, everybody walks in my area, it's going to be going off. I've been sitting here getting beeped left and right because people are going by. The cars are driving by. That's all motion. You know, I went and spent this money. I'm spending money on other stuff to deviate cats to stay away from my house because of the ordinance. I will be coming and asking for ordinance to be changed. I will not be a squeaky wheel. Just make this situation go away. It's ridiculous that literally we're spending this much time on it. It's absolutely ridiculous. But thank you for your time. I appreciate it. And I think
Thank you. Further comments? Pat?
Pat Kane, 817 West 4th Street. It's been a long time.
Yes.
We never said, don't illuminate your property for your safety, visibility, use. Never said that. Everyone has the right to illuminate their property. It is when it is intrusive and illuminating in the interior of someone else's house and on their property that it becomes a rights issue. If someone wants to light their property, they should. They have that right. But they don't necessarily have that right to intrude on someone else's property in the interior of our house. I heard stuff again tonight that's kind of off to the side, so I imagine the deer walking down the street will be blamed on us. But so be it, okay? We spent $1,150 for just those 4 shades to block lights from a neighbor in one corner, okay? The cost is always foisted on the person who needs to block someone's light trespass. No one's telling anybody not to light their property, and it was my understanding that the way this ordinance is written, it only affects if it is initiated by someone who doesn't want the lights and the glare throughout their house. And we have it. I was just informed prior to this meeting, 40-watt bulb. I've never seen a 40-watt bulbs yet that can light a 20-foot driveway, about 30 feet across the road, up another driveway, up onto a porch, and the interior porch and porch rails. The backyard light is the worst. And I know when people have copied a lot of these photos and information, it copied, I don't even know if those are my photos, pitch black. But all of my photos, you see the detail. Inside my house, you see it outside the house with the lights. And you see lights when they're on during the daytime where you can't even tell what type of fixture it is because of the glare. All we've ever asked is that our rights be protected as the taxpayer and the resident, the owner, and we will make the choice of illuminating our property. Okay, and that's the way it should be. When we have an ordinance that prohibits a 2-family structure from overlighting and light trespass, it should, what's the difference? We could just as easily have 2 families by us. But again, this wasn't taking away the rights of anybody to illuminate their property. It just says, if your neighbor doesn't want your lights that are on all night long throughout their house, and they want to enjoy the exterior of their property, but they also don't want to spend thousands of dollars to the trespass, they shouldn't have to. I mean, who owns our property? That's what it's getting back to. It's getting back to the basics of ownership, taxation, and use and enjoyment. And that's it. That's our right on our property for this illumination. And I'm keeping this very focused on the illumination. It's a light trespass. We're not telling anybody to take their lights off. We never have. We just said, don't illuminate our property and inside our house. That's where it's at, and we're asking finally, and hopefully we get to this point where we're going to get the relief. How else do you have equality without discrimination? The people that are overlighting don't want to admit to overlighting or light pollution. They feel it's a right. What's our right? We own the property. That's it. And I think that has to be strongly considered because we're the owners. We're affected by it directly. And when our bedroom can be illuminated so the light stops if you have the drapes open, even inside of our bedroom closet, that's a bit much. When you have a 20-foot driveway, you don't have to illuminate another 60 feet beyond it. It just doesn't make sense. Our safety and security is compromised. Everybody can light their own property to their extent where they feel safe, security, and visible, and that's what we want. We want that same right for us, especially inside our house and on our porch and everything. We want that visibility and safety, but the right of ownership and enjoyment, use and enjoyment of our property. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments from the audience?
Good evening, David Grake, 403 Taylor Street.
Welcome.
Just a quick comment. My wife and I moved back in July into the neighborhood. I start work every day about 5 in the morning. So that means I'm up at 3:34 drinking coffee. The brightest thing on our street is the street light. Food for thought.
Thank you. Further comments?
Good evening, Council. My name is Chris Bronzetti, represent 600 Elizabeth. I was just informed about this matter recently. I have no skin in the game. I don't live on Taylor Street. I'm merely looking at this from an ordinance perspective. And as council members, you can only comment on what is put in front of you. What I see here and what I learned tonight about the 1-foot candle rule, I thought was already too low. That's already your metric that is creating the standard by which it should be judged. So when I saw that the language is now no direct light, I don't know how that's possible. This is an urban setting. This isn't Oakland Township with 1-acre lots. There's going to be light spillage. 40, 50-foot lots. It just, you know, you already have the metric. Why, how, I don't know how it can even be enforced as no direct light. We don't have sheets of visqueen at the property line. This is an impractical suggestion. I don't even want to go on the other items because it's just, I don't know how this even got this far with this language. But as a council, you're only able to comment on what is brought in front of you. And that's what I'm commenting on. Thank you.
Thank you. Further comments before we close the hearing? Okay, at 9:03, we will close the public hearing. City council discussion. Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. So, wow, a lot of information tonight. It is interesting to the last resident's comments about this is what we're given to go through because these were our comments back, which, you know, does lead you to question sometimes why we kind of don't have some conversations with, I guess, city administration independently, so can kind of weigh some things as an independent council person. I've always been for, since this issue began, I've always been for motion lights. I have 3 of them. Mine are to make sure I'm safe. They go off. Those are fine. One thing that discussing some of this with some other people and even some other communities today, and the issue is all the homes that we have in our town that are really truly being affected are homes that were built a long time ago where you never really had a side door first. You always had front doors and back doors, and that's where lighting used to be, right? But then as times changed, houses were built and you have side doors now instead of the back door. It's kind of just in the way that they were built. But I think that we need to do something to protect residents somehow, okay? I don't know the answer to that though, right? Because there are a lot of issues. I think that simple answer is you have a motion light and you don't have to worry about it, except that's my personal opinion again, right? So a couple things on here though. I do think on 5C with the warmer lighting, I think putting that type of thing in ordinance is, what is that definition later on down the road since we'd be having this on ordinance? I don't know if it's ecological, you know, ecological lighting or something like that, but I think just having a generic adjective for that doesn't help us either. I do think that we should have an ordinance and residents who can, I guess I'm going to stop at that right now. Yes, thank you.
Council? Councilmember Gould.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have tremendous respect for the individuals that have come and talked this evening. And I've always been a little bit conflicted about these issues which have come before us many times. I live on 2nd Street. By any definition, there's massive light trespass into my home. I have no shades on any windows. And I guess I kind of knew that was going to happen when I moved into town. I kind of like it. It kind of makes me feel safe that the street has some lighting on it. If I wanted no light in my property, I probably wouldn't live in the city, at least in this grid area. Maybe I'd move out to the east side or something like that, where you have the big lots like Pro Tem Salvia. But I have a small lot, and there's a ton of light trespassing. On my way here, I was looking at all of the lights, and every single house from 2nd Street down Oak would have to shield in some way. I don't know what it means. I heard today from one of the speakers that the ordinance would be initiated by someone who doesn't want light shining on their property. It's not necessarily true. I've got neighbors that have dogs that bark. Maybe that aggravates me. This would be a great thing to call on. You know, anytime any light is shining, I can see Mount Avon Cemetery from my house. They have those little flickering lights down there, those little by the graves. I could call on that. That doesn't make sense to me. So after this evening, I'm more convinced than ever that this is sort of a local, very contained, neighbor-to-neighbor beef. Not trying to take anything away from it, but the way this is written, I simply don't see how it could be enforced. It's so subjective. What does vicinity mean? I can see probably all the way over to the park for my residence. I can see those lights shining in. I could take pictures just like all of them we've seen. I don't know how it would be enforced. I don't know what a shaded mean. Do I put aluminum foil on it, or does it just mean it could be a little shorter? I don't know what, it's just so subjective. There's nothing concrete here, and that's why I can't support this. But thank you.
Councilmember Albrecht.
So, like everybody else, we received all these packets, and I've pulled up some of the pictures that were included, and I heard from Richard Blaznik about the 40-watt light bulb, and I'm looking at the picture going, you know, that doesn't look like a 40-watt light bulb in the picture, and I know Chief Slezlak has probably gone out there many times to look at this situation, so I would just ask the chief real quick, the pictures we've seen in this package, and you've gone to this property, doesn't seem to match what we've heard today from, you know, this is the first time we've met you, Richard, so thank you for coming out tonight and explain your situation. So I just wanted to get that clarification before I move on with my comments.
Chief, welcome.
Good afternoon or good evening, I should say.
And I'm looking at just any one of the pictures, but I'm on page 138 in the packet, or if you look at 136 or 135, all of them look like bright, almost fluorescent-like lights versus a 40-watt bulb.
I think Councilperson Gould said it best, that he can look out his window and see the small flickering lights in the dark at the cemetery. But I can tell you that I've been up to this area on 4th and Taylor multiple times. And I've measured with my light meter, and I measure at the sidewalk on the north side of the road, at the property line of the people on the north side of 4th Street. And at no times has the light ever been greater than 1/2 to 3/4 of a candela. So can you see the light? The picture of the light against the dark background is easy to see. And councilperson, I don't know how else better to answer it than that.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. And again, I respect everybody who's come up and spoken tonight about this, and I dog-eared some pages here in getting ready for this, and I've just come to I try to bring things down to as simple terms as possible. And in my mind, we're trying to create a citywide solution to a local problem. And I can't support that.
Thank you. Councilmember Peterson?
Thank you, Mayor. So I had to live with this a long time ago when they were building a parking structure in my backyard, and that's when lighting became first an issue because there was never an ordinance or anything to address commercial against residential property at all. But in the packet on page 123, one of the biggest things I think being discussed now is just the light pollution piece of it. And if you do look, because I know that's what they had to do on the parking structures, they had to turn the lights to not overspill onto the backside of the building. Because I have a, I don't know, 4-story parking structure, and it doesn't even light up my backyard anymore. It never does. So that's why I have motion lights back there, because there's a berm and it's dark and you can't see anything. But if you actually look at the light pollution page on 123, under the best category, showing how the light is directed down, it doesn't show the light glare going outward. It shows it going down, and that's what we require of the commercial properties, same thing, correct? It has to go down, it can't be outward. And I don't know, I don't know if they make lights out there that will do that in general, to do that, because these are more look like commercial lights, but I do understand the concept here. So, is that something that can be looked at in regards to the foot candle? Is the foot candle being measured coming from the top down? Is it looking outward? I want everybody to be safe here. I want everyone to get along. There was even another resident who had, has an issue with the lights because it's the side lights that shine into the bedrooms. I have a house that does the same thing, neighbor of mine, lights shine right in. I mean, what can I do except ask them if we can't do anything with the ordinance? But those lights should be able to shine down. Motion lights shine down. They don't shine outward, they shine down, and illuminate what needs to be lit up so you can see without doing the glare. I don't know. I know this went through planning multiple times and lots of discussion. I think there's probably more discussion that takes place there than here because we're given this at a different level than what planners discuss. So I'd like to know what administration thinks as well, moving forward, to make this, to make it pleasant for all parties.
Do you want to comment, Mr. City Manager? You don't have to.
I'd rather not, because you're talking carriage lights are not, motion detectors, it's just a little thing you put inside of it,
No.
Councilwoman, and it turns any light on or off. It's not,
Right.
a carriage light, they don't shine down. They're called carriage lights. They're for decoration and they light up your area, so.
Well, that was, I guess, Mayor, if I may, that's where, first off, I would like to totally change our ordinance to have this specifically have just commercial in one section, and if we go residential into another section, right? Because it is confusing reading through here when you have everything all together, as it was pointed out even earlier. And I had made my notes on this prior to the meeting of like, everything's just kind of melded in together when I think it should be more separated, to make it easier when anybody coming to this community to purchase a home or to know what the rules are, doesn't have to try to decipher through everything regarding commercial and residential. Because you still need, under the commercial piece, to protect the residential side. And if we don't have a full residential piece to put in here in the future, then it at least will, you need to separate it somehow. Because a lot of these exemptions, actually, you're mixing construction in again with temporary lighting from what we're referring to as, household residential lighting.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Thank you. So to me, lighting is subjective. I can sleep with all the lights on. My husband has to have it pitch black. So lighting is subjective. So this is hard, which is what we've been saying for years. To me, what we're trying to get to here is a tool for neighbors to resolve a dispute. We're always going to have neighborhood disputes, even though we'd like to think we never will, but we always will. I don't read this version of the ordinance change as it was stated that we would immediately have 10,000 lights that are in non-compliance, because that assumes we have 10,000 people that have an issue with the lights next to them. I don't think we have 10,000 issues in Rochester. I think we probably have more than one. Is it 5? I don't know. The way I read this, there's some wording in here that gives people flexibility around their decorative lighting, the seasonal lighting. And again, I just really think we need a tool to help some neighbors resolve a dispute.
Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm glad Councilmember Peterson brought up the issue she had when the parking garage was being erected in your backyard. And that's the neat thing about this ordinance is over time, there've been some other instances where in a residential portion, there were commercial properties that were infringing upon those residential properties, and hence this ordinance got amended to where it states things like, because it all comes down to this, right? So we're saying a commercial property can be a neighbor of a residential property, but we don't have a way to say a residential property is also a neighbor of a residential property. And I say that because in this ordinance, the one currently on the books, it simply just states said commercial building in those districts that abut and face a single-family dwelling in a residential district shall have shielding that directs the light downward.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, hey, maybe, it's shall. So we're trying to find a way to where there is some equity then on a residential to residential situation. And I guess I'm just struggling with that because we've heard over times of this discussion over 3 years that, well, you know what, the good neighbor theory will just win out and everything's going to be fine. Well, good neighbor theory is not based on any law, and it only works until it doesn't. So I guess I'm still looking for a way to provide some relief on a residential to residential side to this issue. And if that means we take another pass at this, or if there's no appetite, I guess I need my colleagues to say, this is it, we're done.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just for clarification, any commercial district, the setbacks are minimum 30 feet. We're talking about two buildings next to each other residential. It could be 5 and 5. You could be 10 feet apart. There is a differentiation between commercial. All the apartments are, the person that complained about the light was 780 feet away, but could still see the light. In the apartments, didn't break any laws, didn't do anything, but they shielded it on their own. So there is a difference between why commercial, when they come in, as you know this, at the site plan, they have to bring an illumination chart to say how they're gonna deal with illumination. And those apples and oranges, just so you know, there's way greater setbacks on commercial residential. We're talking about something that's literally potentially 10 feet apart. Solution, aim it down. If you want to mandate that, that's fine, and that would solve that until it hits the pavement below it and then ricochets up, and you're still going to see that light. So I live with that. I turn my light off on the side yard because I know I'm 8 feet away from my neighbor's kid's back bedroom. So you turn it off, but that's good neighbors. But again, I just want to differentiate. Commercial has higher standards and setbacks that would minimize the possibility of this ever being the same as residential to residential.
Councilmember Peterson?
Thank you, Mayor. So one thing for the city attorney then, shall doesn't really count anymore. Should that be changed to must if it's ordinance related?
Councilmember Peterson, can you point out where that?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. It would be 3B, second line, towards the end.
Because shall doesn't mean shall anymore.
Right.
In 3B, I can certainly.
Well, I'm
if
just
this moves
asking whether or
forward.
not that would have to be changed. I mean, because of the changes that we've had throughout other ordinance things, we've changed it to must when it said shall.
That's correct. I'd be happy to make that change if this moves forward.
And I guess, Mayor, if I may, so and to Councilmember Sage's point, our discussion too. I would like to have a happy medium here too, to where we have a mechanism in place to where, you know, if there is something that is in a huge violation that is causing distress for any homeowner, that they do have a mechanism. If the mechanism is the 1-foot candle power, I mean, which is in the commercial side and was taken out of the residential side.
That's not correct. It was never, it's always been it's never been suggested to have that change. Subsection 3C specifically says that it's subject to 1-foot candle.
Oh, no, I know, but I was reading from A too, so I was thinking this is where, because it's all in all districts. So in all districts, A says, you know, shall be more than 1 foot, no case shall be more than 1-foot candle power. So, and then it's down below as well. To me, I would really like just to have a commercial code and a residential code.
Is that what we have, or is it the combined?
You have a combined lighting ordinance, and all of the red lines, so right now, you don't have a specific single-family residential lighting separate. That's subsection 4 is all brand-new language.
Except 3C.
I said 4.
No, okay, I know, yeah, but 3C, that's why, it's 3C is that from single family abutting other residences in a residential district, so.
Yeah, this is section 2306 is the light and illumination ordinance. So it goes to the different districts, which you don't see in here, because I put in, you'll see unchanged for the sake of, for everybody. So in like 1 and 2, there's language that I just didn't put in there because we're not touching those, but, so subsection 4 is completely proposed as new, because the request was to have a specific single-family residential light component. That's why that is proposed.
If we go down to, sorry, Mayor, if we go down, City Attorney, to 5 and the exemption, so a lot of that is in regard to commercial. And we're mixing the two.
No, so exemptions would be exemptions applicable to the entire lighting ordinance. That's subsection 5. So it has some applicability to commercial, and it also, because you've requested an add of single-family residential, that we had to tailor that to also apply to residential.
Understood.
So, I hate to even say this, but does it make a difference if the city manager comes back with a separate commercial and then residential? Is that what people are talking about?
What was I going to say? I forgot.
If they look back to the planning commission, et cetera, then.
Yeah, I don't know that that does.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I don't really think, from my personal perspective, whether it's cut and pasted into a different section, you're wrestling with whether to have that language. So whether we put this, keep it where it is, or have it as a difference of, 2307, you're trying to get to the point where, what do we want to have regulations? Where it goes, I mean, that's not as important as, do you want there to be one? And we can put it wherever you want to, but you need to get to that hurdle first.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Trent.
Right. I thank you all for coming, and Mr. Bosnick also. I had not heard from you. It makes it more difficult. I've been hearing one side, and valid side, but lighting is subjective, and this is extremely difficult, and I'm just thinking of the next step. So this goes into place. Does that mean, who comes and measures the area around the driveways at Chief Sizzlick? Who makes that decision, that does that shield go on? Is that how this works? Or does the neighbor make the decision and says, I think that the shield needs to go on, because it's bothering me, and I do understand that, I don't have lights coming into my house, but I could say, I have seen at times when there's pretty bright on my neighbor's side.
Well, I think a neighbor, correct me if I'm wrong, a neighbor would file a complaint, and then city administration, whoever that is, would make the subjective decision, I guess. Where now they're, in theory, using 1.0 candle or whatever it is. Right? So right now, there's in theory, a metric where now we're not going to have a metric. Is that a fair statement?
You would still have the 1 foot candle.
Right.
But that's a completely separate analysis, because then you're looking at, does an exterior light have any direct light falling onto another residential lot? You're just adding a separate analysis.
Councilmember Trent?
Thank you. So in theory, Chief Sesley could go out to Mr. Blaznik's home. He could do the measurements, and he could say, it's in
He's done that, and he's put that in writing. It's
So-
never been in violation, ever.
So that's happened at
So
the one place that we seem to be talking about.
the one place that we do, so,
They've been called out, and the chief has on multiple occasions said it's not a violation according to our current ordinance. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct.
but the new ordinance would change that? Is that
Well,
what we're
make it subjective.
to subjective, so we're turning it over to someone else?
Correct.
In a dispute that seems rather difficult.
Councilmember Peterson?
Thank you, Mayor. So I'm going to make a motion to move this forward to public hearing. I'm sorry, my motion to second reading.
Okay, so there's a motion.
Introduction and first, sorry, I was reading the old one, sorry.
So there's a motion by Councilmember Peterson to move it forward to second reading and adoption, or to
First reading.
first reading adoption. Is there support for that?
Support.
Support by Councilmember Sage. Is there further discussion? So I would like to comment myself. I haven't said anything. So this is very difficult. As I've said publicly many times, I live in a house where the neighbors are very, very close. So I live in one of those houses. I happen to have nice neighbors, so it's not an issue, but I understand that it could be. We all would like to solve this problem. I think a lot of us up here know the people who are involved. I would desperately like to solve this problem. I've told city administration, I've told the fire chief. I'd like to get something worked out to solve this. But at the same time, this seems very subjective to me. And to me, I don't know if that's a good thing. So I'm very hesitant to support this tonight. Not that I don't want the problem solved, not that I don't think there's some compromise out there that I've been pushing for years, but we don't seem to be able to come up with it. I want the problem solved. I would like the neighbors to solve this somehow and to be good neighbors or somehow work it out. But one thing I've learned on all my years on city council, it's very difficult to fix some neighbor-to-neighbor problems. And sometimes an ordinance, you just can't legislate it, and it makes it very frustrating, because I think we all, when we ran for office, we want to solve problems, we want to help people. But it's very difficult to do that. So I think that tonight, I think this is not workable. So I would like to see us continue somehow, some way, to to get this fixed, but I don't think this is it tonight. So Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
No.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
No.
Gould,
No.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Trent.
No.
Okay, so the motion fails. Okay. So I guess I would ask city administration to continue to look for ways to help solve that problem.
Absolutely.
That is a way that can be,
We can have dialogue. I mean, dialogue's always good. That's what we're good at. We can bring parties together and see if there is a middle ground. And again, I appreciate how tough this is on all of you, and I appreciate both sides of your stances, and appreciate Pat and the neighbor, but that's what I like to do, so we'll pull the forces together and see what we can do, and there might be a compromise somewhere that,
maybe
that we
there's
can
some
come
kind of mediation that the
Yeah.
city can
Right there.
we can do that. Absolutely.
pay for or can work towards, because again, I believe the neighbors out there are good people, want to work this out. And I know that I have tried. I know that other people on this council have worked very hard on it.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Okay. So next is the legislative deliberation, consideration of an ordinance amendment, sections 11-0 to 11-03, central business district uses to move to a second reading and adoption.
Motion to move this to second reading and adoption.
Support.
Motion by the Mayor Pro Tem, support by Councilmember Albrecht. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you. On to reports and regular business is agreement for parking in lieu of payment for Roxy 401 Walnut. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you. I think that Mr. Vitrano's here. You represent, no, okay. Yeah, but not for that. Yeah, so during the, okay. We, through the planning process, working for the Roxy, we did evaluate parking needs, et cetera, required parking. In this case, they chose to, because of city council has been pro-business, if you will, and drop that fee for parking in lieu of providing parking, the payment in lieu of providing parking to $1,000. They felt that they're going to rehab their site, make a lot of that site for handicap parking, and then drop off, and then if they have VIP parking, et cetera, that will drive their patrons into our system. At $1 an hour, we love that. So they felt it was a reasonable request to pay in lieu of. They also could have maximized the pavement on this site. And I think this is really important. So if you can picture along Walnut, people don't know where that property line is. It's at the telephone poles. Everybody on Walnut, on the east side of Walnut, has the nose of their cars 8 feet into our right-of-way. It's been like that since the places were built. There's no room for a sidewalk, no room for a green belt. I was charged about 5 years ago to try to meet with everybody there before the Roxy was involved to see if we could get them to back their parking off, which meant they lost spaces, and then have the city come in with DDA money and put in a sidewalk and a green belt. Everybody said no. Literally everybody in the block's like, we like our parking. You can't make me do that. I'm grandfathered in. So when the Roxy came in, Glenn and his team looked and said, well, I'd rather have the softness. I'd rather plant trees, a green belt, a sidewalk, even though I know it goes to nowhere north of me. Eventually, I hope the DDA can get that connector in there. So he was willing to do that. That made him, I think, lose 8 parking spaces. So we feel he should get credit for that because he did not push it and just leave the pavement that's there. So I think the total number in the end, Jeff, was 71?
Yes.
Yeah, 71 spaces. So $71,000 he's asking to.
Down to 63.
Down to 63, right?
71 to 63.
Yeah, 71 to 63. So he's willing to pay $63,000 into the parking fund, asking council to enter the agreement that we allowed anybody over 10 spaces to spread those over 10 equal payments over 10 years. And if they stop making the payments at some point, the owner of the property has the right to continue that payment so that they would be able to use this parking. Because remember, Mr. Wilhelm does not own this property. Mr. Thibodeau does. So they have a 10-year lease, I believe, but we are in support of this. to support the 10-year plan, so it'll be $6,300 into our parking fund per year for 10 years, and we'll get the benefit of the landscaping, the trees, and the beautification of that site.
Mr. Mayor, before,
Mr. City Attorney?
so Mr. Bandit was exactly right on the payment in lieu of parking installment situation. There is a secondary issue, which is the easement agreement that's also in the packet. It's related to it, so I wanted to make sure that both items were on the discussion table. So this easement, because Planning Commission approved the site plan with having the sidewalk, having this, now diagonal spaces, having the greenery, having the vegetation, those are all site plan conditions. So it was appropriate to have an easement agreement to let them do all that work in there. This easement, because it's in a right-of-way, even though they're using it now, it's using it for a different reason. Plus, there's continuing maintenance obligations that we wanted to have. For instance, shoveling, they would have to do that anyway. But, mowing, keeping up the trees. If they're dead, replace them. So we did propose to have an easement agreement, which they've agreed to. And that was the one in the packet as well. So that allows them to be in the right-of-way, do what they have to do according to the site plan, and it made it a little different because they don't own the property. So their obligations would cease if they no longer had an interest in the property. So we had a lot of discussions back and forth with the Roxy people, their attorney, Nick, and so we were comfortable with these two agreements, and our recommendation is to move forward and approve both of them.
Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, City Administration, would we need two motions? One to approve the payment in lieu of the parking installment agreement, and then one to approve the easement?
Please.
Okay. I'll make the first motion to approve the payment in lieu of the parking installment agreement for the Roxy.
I'll support.
Motion by Councilmember Sage, support by Councilmember Trent. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon?
Yes.
Salvia?
Yes.
Albrecht?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Sage?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Councilmember Sage.
I will make the second motion to then approve the easement agreement as presented and authorize the city manager and city clerk to execute on behalf of the city.
Motion by Councilmember Sage,
Support.
support by Councilmember Trent. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon?
Yes.
Salvia?
Yes.
Albrecht?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Sage?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Mr. Petrino, you can go home.
He misses us.
If you'd like,
Yeah.
you can stay if you'd like. Next is consideration of first modification to reciprocal parking lot easement agreement between St. John Lutheran and Lakestone 929 West University. Mr. City Manager?
Thank you. Again, at Planning Commission, nothing's easy. So when these folks at St. John's came in, I think 4 times now, modifying their master plan, and they're ready to go now with the addition to the building, it required extra parking. 929 was agreeable to let them share some of the parking. We had to put that into a legal agreement. Jeff worked with their attorneys, Attorney Kraut worked with their attorneys, and we came up with this agreement. We're in support, again, of executing this between the two properties, which covers the Planning Commission's requirement of having it in place.
Councilmember Albrecht.
This is, as I read this, I like that these are two commercial properties that work together Monday through Friday and then to church on Sunday. So I'd like to make a motion to approve the first modification to reciprocal parking lot easement agreement and direct City Manager Banner to sign on behalf of the city.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Albrecht, support by Councilmember Peterson. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon?
Yes.
Salvia?
Yes.
Albrecht?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Sage?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Thank you. Next is consideration of a funding request from the FEMA's Public Assistant Grant. Mr. City Manager?
Chief, you want to talk about this one? Yep. It's about, as we were really good neighbors, and unfortunately, we had to work heavily with the federal government in the COVID response that we did. We used and put a lot of wear and tear on our fire department over the time that we used that for vaccinations, for shots, for testing, et cetera. So Chief was always looking for some money, and he's came across this opportunity that would help us pay to repave, if you will, reseal the fire apparatus room. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Mr. Mayor, back when COVID raised its ugly head, the federal government put out what was called a public assistance grant That's what provided much of the money to the counties and the states to go ahead and render and deliver the vaccinations. I'm proud that the city of Rochester supported Oakland County, and we delivered over 26,000 vaccinations to the fire department. In that agreement, they were also providing funds to return the facility back to its original condition. And we now are getting ready to close out the public assistance grant through the county. We do have an opportunity to go ahead and resurface the bay floor, which was last done around 1991. As you can imagine, 26,000 cars drove through the parking, or through the bay, which is a lot more than pulling the fire trucks in and out over a few years. So what I'm requesting council's consideration is to approve to move forward with this expenditure of around $26,000. It would be refundable up to 90% from the federal government, which means it would cost us about $2,600. We have to have the work completed by August the 1st, if I'm not mistaken, but we have to have the contract let sometime within the next few weeks. So I'm asking council's consideration to move forward with executing the contract to go ahead and resurface the parking lot floor with the understanding that it would cost us about $2,600.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson, support by Councilmember Gould. Mayor Pro Tem Sylvia.
Thank you. The packet says the low bid was $25,791. Who is that?
Engineered floor surfaces.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Albright.
Even if we hadn't done the 26,000 doses of the COVID, the fact that this floor hasn't been resurfaced since 1999, to me was, no, 1999 it says here.
It says 99.
So, I mean, 24 years, it needs to be done.
It does, but as the city managers ask us to do, and also the grant committee from the city council, we're always looking for opportunities that we can go ahead and save the money, and this was kind of a give back from the public assistance for us. I'll call it a reward or incentive for us to deliver those 26,000 vaccinations.
Yeah, good job.
Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht.
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Next is a correction to the building officials contract. Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to waste the item on this, but when we were executing the document, Joe Ellen and Jeff and Randy, it was noticed, and Randy, he wrote it kind of, and he picked up on it, and he was willing to not ask this, but we should have started the first year of the 3-year extension, not at what he was paid a year ago. The intent was 3% and then 3s for the next 3 years. Randy put in the number that emulated what he's making now, so he said, I'll just eat the 3%. And that's not fair. I mean, that wasn't the intent, so Jeff quickly put this back in. We just moved the numbers down and added 3% the last year. So no, nothing else is different. It's just the starting salary was wrong by 3%.
Motion to approve.
Sorry about that.
Support.
Councilmember Peterson, support by Councilmember Trent. Madam Clerk, the roll.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht.
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Sage.
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is consideration of the Oakland County Incident Management Team Agreement. Mr. City Manager, Mr. Flair.
Chief.
Mr. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know, the Rochester City joined MABUS a few years ago, probably 16 years ago, which is the mutual aid box alarm system, and that had ownership of what was called an incident management team. So an incident management team is made up of local fire departments and other city members to go ahead and help manage emergencies or planned events. And it's intended to go ahead and mitigate the incident or go ahead and get things back into operations. We currently use the incident management team multiple times within the city because of the large events we do. One of them would be the Christmas parade and also Big Bright Lights. The Oakland County Emergency Management Group is now taking control over the incident management team from MABUS 3201, and all the assets are being transferred there. With that being done, the Oakland County Attorneys Group has put together an MOU, an agreement for the people who are members of it. And I've sent the agreement to to Attorney Crott, and he might want to comment on his review.
Mr. City Manager, City Attorney?
So there's really, this is a fairly standard county contract that they put together, and the usual pushbacks that I would have, I know the chief can't get in because it's the county that dictates, and so while he certainly shares the concern about indemnification, I know that's part of the county's standard contract, so generally I'm fine with this. I don't see a huge exposure. It does provide that everyone's responsible for their own person's activity, which is one of the biggest things I look forward to, so we're not indemnifying necessarily for anything else. We're responsible for what we do, they're responsible for what they do, but there is an indemnification which is what I always push on, and but it's going to stay in there if you approve it.
Mr. Mayor, the benefit to the city is to continuing to have the incident management team available for our use. We do have people within the city that do support it, and so using it makes it as a free service to us, and we do use it on a fairly regular basis for our planned events. We hope we never have to use it for anything other than that at this time.
Very good. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Support.
Councilmember Peterson, support by Councilmember Sage. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Albrecht,
Yes.
Gould,
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you. Next, a request for road salt co-op purchase approval. Looks like the price of salt is going down.
Alex, so excited
Yes
to be
and
here.
no. Yeah, let's talk about road salt, guys.
Yeah, yes and no. You gotta
No, it's
explain that one.
spring.
I'll keep it short. So the city's been purchasing road salt through a regional cooperative bidding process that the City of Farmington Hills has been doing for a while now. Includes 26 different agencies within the Tri-County area. So after this past winter, the current contract expires, they went out for a new bid. Detroit Salt was the previous supplier, and then Detroit Salt has now been chosen as the lowest bidder again. For next season, the $55.87 per ton is the early season price. That went down by about $1.69, but the regular season price of $59.62 went up by just over $1. So in my request, I guess before I get to that, in our agreement, we've been estimating purchasing around 1,750 tons of rock salt a year. Within this cooperative bidding program, we're allowed a 30% delta, so we can purchase up to 30% less than that or 30% more, which is a pretty big window for us. Just for reference, this past winter, we purchased 1,411 tons of salt for around $81,000, so we're on the lower end of that. As you guys remember, we didn't have as heavy of a winter this past year. So in my request, I requested authorizing the purchase of the $97,772.50. That was using just the early season price. Kind of had a brain fart, and that our salt barn is full, so we're most likely going to be using the regular season price. So if that's all right, I'd like to amend that to just what we have, and not to exceed what's in our budget for next year, the $132,264. That's what's been budgeted for next fiscal year. And that number would be pretty much, if we were to use 30% past what our estimate was at that regular season price, that's about what that number is. Don't see that happening, but just to give staff the authority to make that decision, requesting not to exceed the total budgeted price of $132,264. And as for other reference points, our salt barn holds about 1,000 tons of salt. When we get shipments, it's usually about 100-ton shipments, sometimes 200 tons, depends on what the weather's like.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Alec, even if you use the 59.62, the regular season price at the 1,750 tons of rock salt you were thinking about, you're still going to be only, where'd it go? Only at 104,000, so you're going to be well within your budget anyway.
Correct, yeah, I think if we took the 1750 and added the extra 30% using the regular season price, it was at,
104,335.
no, it'd be 135,000.
Right, if you go the extra 30.
Extra 30%, yeah.
Oh, on top of the,
1750.
okay.
Just in case.
Okay,
Most likely not gonna happen, but that's why they have that big swing, because sometimes you have light winters, sometimes you got heavy winters.
thank you.
Motion to approve as presented.
Support.
Motion by Councilmember Sage, support by Councilmember Gould. Madam, comment?
Yeah, as presented, no, you just amended it to the regular season price, correct?
Yes, good call. So,
Yeah.
yeah, in my memo, I did say,
Right.
For a total purchase of the 97,000, but if council is okay with that, I'd like to amend that to, not to exceed the
132.
the 132,264,000, which is, what's currently being budgeted for next fiscal year.
Maker accepts amendment.
Councilmember Gould?
Yes.
Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon?
Yes.
Salvia?
Yes.
Albrecht?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Sage?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Thank you. Next is a review of the draft report of the Consumer Confidence for Water Quality.
So yeah, this one I'm actually kind of excited about. So every year, as I'm sure you guys know, the city is required to put together a consumer confidence report on the quality of our two water systems. That's required, it's an equal requirement. It's a very basic report with some charts, showing our sampling throughout the year, saying our water is good, and some other caveats that we have to put in there. However, staff has taken a look at, and we wanted to turn that report that most people probably don't look at, into a more kind of larger water quality report that we can showcase everything we do with our water systems, and even some other kind of sewer environmental related items too. So we can show kind of some programs we're doing, latest projects we've worked on, where your water bill is going towards, how you can get involved in the watershed, all that kind of stuff, where it's all in one booklet. We've been working with DLZ, our engineering consultants, and then also our water department staff to make it look, nice, pretty pictures and color. And I think it'd be great to have printed out copies of the booklet at the front desk, and could be used as a great educational tool for the city. And this would be something that we've got the Microsoft Publisher document already saved, and we can just make easy edits for next year, new pictures, any new ideas. I've got it at council tonight because I know originally this was going to be part of the Wellhead Protection Program grant that was approved by council. The Eagle came back and said that what we wanted to do, I guess they said it was okay at first, and then they said, no, we can't use grant money for that. But since it wasn't that big of a project, and we already had the money available in the budget for engineering contractual services, and we thought it was a great idea, we went ahead with it. At that time, I remember council said that they wanted to have kind of the first look at it, to offer any comments and review before we started printing it out and having residents take a look at it. So tonight, I've got that in the packet for your review and for any comments.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Thank you. Excellent work. Corey and the entire team, I know, worked really hard on this. I in particular like page 221 in the packet, putting your water bills to work. So my ask is just that we communicate this as far and wide in as many places as we can. I don't know, maybe even a Ready Rochester alert that, hey, we've got this packet available. I know we don't want to overuse that, but it's exciting to have such high-quality water information for our residents. Thank you.
I agree.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes, I want to just say thank you very much. Love the report. I really think this is where it needed to go, to where it is a nice living document for the future as well. One thing, though, for administration and council, if we could please, one day, make it on-off days for sprinkling systems, it would be great to be able to be one of the first cities to really conserve some water.
Yeah, as of right now, it's just it's an
Yeah.
ordinance, but it's a
I know.
voluntary.
Yeah, I know. I just think that with water supplies and things like that, I think we need to be conservative with our water as well. So we cut down on costs coming through from Shelby.
Councilmember Albrecht?
I already sent you and Nick an email with some comments, but I agree with Councilmember Peterson. I've brought that up at our infrastructure meetings for the last year and a half, that we need to do a better job of water conservation. Even last year, during the 2.5 months that the main line was shut down, and we had signs everywhere in the city, there were still people who I guess couldn't read and decided to water their lawns despite the shortage. So I would like on page, whatever the first page is, maybe we do something more than just, volunteer water restrictions, and maybe that has to come before city council, city manager, Banda, to do that. Secondly, we've always talked about, and again, about 3 years ago, we did that little dollar bill that showed where your water, it was 2 jugs. It was the east side and the west side, because the east side is on the well system, I always get this mixed up.
East side's the GLWA. And
Right,
west side's
and then how we pay more because of the Shelby rates plus a 20% premium on top of that. So maybe we could, I think Marcy or Anthony did that before, maybe we could include that where you have the water distribution system maps, some more information. I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Salvia. The more information we can put in this, you're right, 13,000 residents, maybe 30 read it, but again, if we have it there and we show it, and when people ask the question, go, in the water report, page 4, we have how our water is paid for. In the water report, we've put in our new water restrictions for lawn watering. So I think this is the year we step up and protect our water a little bit better.
Yep, and I did think about adding more of a kind of in-depth budget page, but concerned with, it was already, I think, 18 pages, and was concerned with having it maybe too much in-depth.
It's only a half a page or a page.
Yeah.
The good work's already been done. It's just a cut and paste in there.
We're good. Do we need to vote on this or just accept it?
Just accept it.
Thank you.
It's a great job.
Thank you,
Excellent.
Alec.
Yeah, thank you.
Good job.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next, the consideration of sanitary and stormwater sewer cured in place piping project approval. Alec?
Actually, real quick, Mark, you had mentioned that you sent an email. Was that just now or earlier? Because I don't think I got it.
Just now.
Oh, okay, gotcha, okay.
Yeah.
I don't think he knows
Alex?
he's got the ball.
Yep, sorry. I was
Okay, no, I
getting
thought
to
you
the
were
right-
maybe
getting to the right
searching.
spot.
You were searching.
So, this was a project that was mentioned, whenever that was, last month, we were talking about, infrastructure projects. So this is the result of a few years now of video recording our sanitary and storm sewer pipes. After that's all been said and done, and AEW had a chance to review all of the recordings, 12 locations were identified as being compromised and need repair. Type of repair that's done on these types of, I don't wanna call them, minor they aren't collapsed, but they are in need of, some cracks or whatnot being repaired. So there's a cured in place piping, kind of like a long sock that goes into the pipe and heat it up and seals the pipe. I'm sure you guys have heard of that before. What's that?
It's a good description.
That's what it is.
Trying to, make layman terms here. So a request for bids was put out and had a bid opening where Inland Waters Pollution Control out of Detroit was identified as the lowest bidder at a total of $233,377.50. And that would be broken up into the water and sewer funds and the major streets fund for storm sewer repairs. Trying to think if I missed anything on this. Nope, and in the packet I've got some plans on where those locations are at. And we have the funds in it for this fiscal year, so we're looking to get started as soon as possible. This is a pretty non-invasive project. They're just really going to manholes at each location. There's no cutting of the road or that sort of thing.
Motion to approve.
I support.
Motion by Councilmember Peterson, support by Councilmember Trent. Discussion, Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alec, thank you for this report. So this does represent every possible storm sewer. More specifically, there are certain roads and that the city does not maintain, nor do they maintain the pipes. So did we scope every pipe in the city? Or did we say those ones that we don't maintain, we're not looking at?
This would be, just
Just
for.
public.
Just public, yeah.
So could we identify then later how many of those areas that we do not know the condition?
For private for.
So there are roads, right? Nick, you know this, where you didn't do any work on this, right?
Okay, let's try, we'll answer differently. Every public road right away, we will have camera and had a report on. It's just off-site, off the private lots. We would not have done that. Does that help? Yeah, camera will eventually get through every single storm system that we publicly own.
Correct. So there are roads that are not publicly owned, correct, in our city?
Right, so there's
Yes.
a few,
Okay, I get what you're
there's a
saying. So
few
there
private
are
roads,
private
right?
roads where there are public utilities under that private road.
Correct.
And so, yes, those public utilities would be a part of this cammering program.
So those were.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Correct, yeah, and as of right now, we have not cameraed every single
Right.
public storm or sanitary sewer. We're getting to a point where we've done most, and we want to start doing some
Yeah.
repairs. So for the next couple years, we'll be doing those repairs, and then we'd be budgeting to go back and camera the remainder ones to start doing those repairs as well.
Yeah, we did Oldest first, and I see what you, private road, but public utilities, yes, we will be going through there, absolutely.
Okay, how long will that take?
Probably 3 more years after this, Jason? Because
Yeah,
5 years,
In
5
our
more years?
CIP plan, we were looking at for the next 3 years, focusing on the repairs, because after these grid-in-place piping repairs, we've also identified areas where it's more of a collapsed situation, where we're gonna have to do an open cut of the road to do a total replacement of the collapsed area. So we've got those identified. Right now, we're just trying to plan out if there's anything else in the area we can do while we're there, or, trying to maximize our work in that area, so we're not having to go back after we've done the work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have a motion?
Yeah, sure.
And a second.
And a second. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Dixon?
Yes.
Salvia?
Yes.
Albrecht?
Yes.
Gould?
Yes.
Peterson?
Yes.
Sage?
Yes.
Trent?
Yes.
Thank you, Alec.
Thank you.
Next is the receipt of the check register report. Are there any questions or comments on that? Okay. I receive a report from the various boards and commissions, a report from the Sister City meeting. Councilmember Albrecht?
Oh, it's me, actually.
Trent.
We met on April 11th at the City of Rochester Hills. We continue our meetings with department heads of each city. This time we had city planning and economic development discussion with Sarah Rodigger, City of Rochester Hills Planning. And then we have the duplicate hat wearer and Economic Development Director, Nick Banda, City of Rochester Manager. They talked about being a model of working together and sharing knowledge and expertise. I don't know if that has anything to do with Mr. Banda encouraging Sarah to apply for that job, and she apparently says she loves it. But both city engineers work together to streamline efficiencies when needed. And Chief Financial Credit Union was a prime example when a portion of it was in Rochester Hills. Worked together, so there were no redundancies. They were. Mhm. And the trends, believe it or not, people want connectivity, even though it's all connected online. They want it offline as well. So the sidewalks and pedestrian friendly is super important, and Rochester Hills has paths along the roads throughout the city, but with the older and the older subdivisions have sidewalks and the newer ones do not. So they're taking that in consideration as they develop the city. City of Rochester has plenty of sidewalks, as we know, and we keep a good job of keeping those repaired. Both cities continue to offer access to jobs, goods, and services, and downtown Rochester is still and always will be Rochester's Hills downtown. So what else do we do? We had
Do they admit to that?
yeah,
Okay.
I got a witness, too. Mhm. A brief discussion about the Memorial Day parade was had, the one that is the combined cities, and we've already talked about that, still coming up on May 27th at 11 a.m.
The grant application was discussed that was submitted to the DNR and in the hopes that it will be granted for the bee farm that is just south of town, which is the 10 acres that connect Clinton River Watershed Council to Rochester Road. And if you just go a little bit north, you'll be in the city of Rochester. That's pretty much it.
Very good, thank you. Next is a receipt from the City Beautiful Commission. Councilmember Gould.
Yes, thank you, sir. We met on April 12th. We welcomed a new member, Sandra Montez. We reviewed our minutes. The Rochester pollinators presented, but I'll go to them last. A couple other things. The display case, which we have out here, will be moving to the library. It's very nicely done, and they're going to move that to the library for June and July. Mr. City Manager and DPW gave us an update on some of the things going on in the park, like the pavilions and the community gardens and the benches. Mr. City Manager talked about Arbor Day events, I believe on Thursday. I think it's Thursday. Where he will be taking 75 baby white pine trees for some local school. 105. Yeah, okay. And coloring books and such for the children, so getting kids excited about Arbor Day. Talked a lot about bluebird houses. There are 2 up. I've learned a lot about bluebirds. You can actually go in and look in their houses and everything. There's 2 up. They're wildly successful. We learned some great things, like you're not supposed to walk directly up to them. You got to kind of serpentine your way up to the things. Rochester pollinators, as always, are very busy. They had an exhibit at the zoo. There is a camel exhibit at the zoo, and they're trying to put in 400 feet of camel-friendly plants at the Detroit Zoo, so that's exciting.
Well,
and then a lot of talk about Earth Day, of course. We all had Earth Day. They give presentations at the Funky Frog and at the Nature Center and United Wholesale Mortgage. There's a great story in Dutton Farms about the pollinators' work, and just lots of really great PR. So there's a native plant sale coming up at the farmers market shortly, and I will end with that.
Thank you. Next is a report from the Paint Creek Trailway Commission. Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few things. First, the discussion continues on options for a fence or natural barrier to separate the trail from the Dillman and Upton property. The licensing subcommittee there on the trail will visit the site this week to consider some of those possible remedies. And during our discussion with Dillman and Upton, they understand that the 20-plus years that we have not amended their licensing agreement, that there will be some amendments to that to meet current market conditions. They will accept that. Here's an update on all the grant opportunities for Bridge 31-7, the replacement of said bridge here in the city of Rochester. First, the Community Foundation for Southeast Michigan. The trail was awarded $50,000 for design engineering. Unfortunately, that grant period ends in April. I think it ended Friday. So we submitted a request for extension. It was granted to sometime in October. We did so because it's tied into the TAP grant, right? So the TAP grant would go a long ways to funding the actual bridge itself. This then would qualify those dollars, the $50,000, to pay off the design engineering that was required. And the TAP grant will not be awarded until July, so we needed some buffer and got that extension, which then leads us to the Oakland County Parks grant, which we were awarded. The city was awarded another $25,000 for design engineering. We need to request a grant extension to October on that one as well. So Alec, did that? Yeah.
I spoke to Melissa Ford last Friday, and then right after that, I sent an email to our representative at the county. On our grant agreement, there's not an end date listed on the cover. We, in our application, listed a proposed end date. So the person I've been working with, I think she only works Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, so hopefully I'm going to hear back from her tomorrow. on that extension. And
So if we
then-
get that, it'll mirror the same one off of the Community Foundation?
Correct, yeah,
date?
I was
Okay.
pretty much just gonna copy and paste
Okay.
what Melissa did. And,
Okay, good. Okay.
And then we also talked about, to help cover some of the city matching funds for the TAP grant, we discussed the, sorry, I'm stealing your thunder right now.
No, good. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, the Ralph's,
Ralph C. Wilson Trail
Yes.
Grant.
They opened
yeah.
up new legacy funds just for trail maintenance grants.
Correct.
Wow, that's great.
So I sent an email to that grant coordinator today to try and set up a phone call with him this week.
Okay, good. So here's the neat thing about that. Remember the $191,000 that we committed as matching funds, right? This grant would go potentially to pay for half of that commitment we made. So we hope to get this grant, right? So we cut that in half.
One-to-one
Yep,
matching.
that's
Yeah,
what we do.
so
That's
that
the
would be
world
great, yes. Thank you,
Grants are
Alex, I
us.
appreciate it. And then the last update on another grant, the DNR's Sparks grant, we did not win that award, but we got our score, and now we understand where we were at. It's not as bad as we thought. A lot of it has to do with our COVID response, the COVID relief we got, the wealth of our community, kind of
Can't control it.
things we can't control. But there are 10 tiers as they score these grants. We were in the 4th tier. The top 3 tiers got money out of the first tranche of 15 million. We scored the highest in Tier 4, so we were right on the cusp of getting money. The next tranche is 45 million. So we stand a lot better chance, and we are going to resubmit in June for some money, so we're keeping our fingers crossed there. On the southeast Rochester property, AEW has finally completed the cost estimate for us on the development of that site plan for an observation deck on that property. And we sent it to the trust that came to the trail to try and spend some money based on the benefactor. If that funding is approved, I think that will try and work its way through the system here. I don't know, that would come through Planning Commission first? I don't see a big.
Probably
Not, okay. I mean, we're looking at 170,000 is the estimate on that. We could possibly get this done by end of summer if the trust says, yeah, please spend the money. Okay.
Councilmember Sage, I would just ask that the maintenance going forward be rolled into there, because, once you build it, you still got to maintain it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is report from the Downtown Development Authority. Councilmember Trent.
Okay, so the Historical Commission liaison told us that the Heritage Festival event is going to be May 25th and 26th in the Municipal Park. Congratulations to the DDA are in store because as they were awarded the 18th annual National Main Street Accreditation was presented by John Bry, the Oakland County Main Street Director. We had a presentation similar to the one we had this evening, so I will not go into detail on that. There was an update from Chairman Giovanelli on the DDA budget that will be coming to us soon, and sometime in May. The Moon River Building is going to be torn down, and maybe it already has, I haven't checked.
Yeah, Monday, today, right?
Okay, the Moon River Building, this was last week, okay. It has been torn down. The downtown has 97% occupancy rate, and 8 platforms are scheduled to be put on the streets. Are they on the streets, Mr. Anda? Are they on the streets now? So 8, this is all, yes. 8 platforms are on the street now, so please enjoy. Thank you very much.
No, yeah, I'm sorry, the platforms, they're going in the next 10 days, so,
Okay,
yeah.
okay,
But it's
all right.
8, yeah.
I'm losing track of time.
That's right.
Next to receive a report from the Planning Commission. Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had one public hearing to review the ordinance changes pursuant to the master plan for the downtown core, the downtown edge 1 and downtown edge 2 districts. This was approved and will come before council for final review. We also had one consideration of the ordinance changes pursuant to the master plan for mixed use and the transition districts downtown. This was moved to public hearing in May, and if approved then, we'll move to council. So we're making some progress on all of the districts as we've.
The second meeting of every month is for that, and then it will then come to council. Keep the process going. Okay, is there further public comment?
Pat Kane, 817. If ever I wanted the strength and the support of my husband at my side, it was tonight. Unbeknownst to any of you, Good Friday at 10:38 at night, we get a wake-up call from the oncologist, and it was an emergency from Ed's Labs earlier that day. And we had to go to Beaumont Emergency, where we didn't get out till 3 a.m. because he could have died. My husband's dying in front of me. He can't be here for this. I needed him here tonight. I needed him here because we're fighting for our rights. When a gentleman says the brightest spot in our neighborhood is the DTE light, the street light, DTE shielded a lot of lights in Rochester because it doesn't belong inside of people's houses and on their property. So they're lighting the entire right-of-way. Okay? I hear a council member likes all the lights inside the house because he feels safe, and he doesn't even use window coverings. Another council member says, nobody's lighting inside my house, it's dark. They like it. Not one person has said it's a trespass into someone else's house. Lighting is not subjective. When you can physically see it on the walls inside of my house, I see lights in the distance. They don't illuminate into my house, in my bedroom. I see the Acorn light on Main Street or on University. It does not light into my house, but I see it, and it's a bright spot. Small, but it's there. We're talking about lights that illuminate still, as of Sunday night, into the interior of my house, and I took more photos Sunday night. Those photographs don't lie with the glare, and there's no way to really measure it. I heard tonight, oh, you've got trees. So what, put up with the trespass for 9 months out of the year? Excuse me? 2 years in a row, you all got photographs showing the lights through and under my trees, right into my house. I've lost my rights. I've lost my husband's hard work to afford that house, our rights, for our use and our enjoyment. Not once did those people ever say we're overstepping when we intrude into someone else's house. So unbeknownst to you, Saturday morning at 7:45, I'm up with my husband having coffee. I became alarmed when I saw the neighbor starting to walk across the street with a shovel. I ran outside, barefoot. What are you doing? He's coming towards my husband's car. He threw feces on our public right-of-way and easement in front of our house and blamed it on his cameras that showed a cat exiting my property. So like I said tonight, if the deer down the street do anything, it'll be blamed on us. My hands are full right now. And I'm going to be asked to spend, what, another thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars just to block light inside my house so that we can be comfortable to sleep? I got cameras on my house. I got big bright lights through every front of my house through, from one man across the street. He never mentioned, he kept saying, oh, my garage lights, my garage lights. Never mentioned the big white light that illuminates 4 properties, including all through mine. We get it direct. I don't know where this is going to end, but right now I'm going home feeling like I gave up all my rights. And everybody's looking at it from somebody else's right, affording them the intrusion and trespass into someone else's investment, property, and private life, because that's what's happened. My husband's not going to be here very long, and I know that. The one thing he wants is for me to be safe. and feel safe in my house, and I don't right now. I don't. I am watched, looked at, taped, photographed, and illuminated, including into our bedroom, our porch. We can't even use our porch. How do you think that feels? That should be our right, just like council members have their rights for their property. Nobody is experiencing this. Some of those people that talked, they don't have this. Not one of them do. But yet it's like it's supported, and I don't understand that. I don't. And like I said, I wish my husband was here. His fear is now if something happens, he doesn't want me to be here anymore. Not with what's happened. Not, and I can't. You have to understand that we spent, I know you're sick of hearing it, over $1,150 for those stupid blackout, plain old shades so that we could cook in the kitchen and do dishes without the glare from those lights, which I've sent multiple photographs of. And then I see the people sitting here with an attorney? Yeah. How do you think I feel? And Christian Hauser talked with me before, and I found it very, very unnerving and upsetting. Very much so. He's planning commission, he's an attorney, he's running for city council. How do you think that makes me feel? I have yet to have an attorney sitting here and advising people and coming here and talking in the circles or anything. I just want my property rights. I want the peace and enjoyment of my property. That's all I've been asking for, and I don't have it. And there isn't one of you that has the type of glare and lights going through your entire house like we do. And we never had it till he moved in. Okay? I don't know what else to do.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, so I'm going to ask you one favor. So I got a text from the person saying, I'm willing to talk, and maybe we can come to a compromise. I said, I want you to invite me and Pat together, so I need you to say yes to that. I'll put you both in the room, and he's willing to talk to try to make it better, because that will solve your personal problem, and so just say yes, and I'll set it up.
I say yes.
Okay.
Do I bring an attorney?
Nope, we're good.
Can I respond to that?
Councilmember Sage.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful that will occur.
I'm not.
But I've also sat here, Nick, and heard you say to this body twice, the guy won't talk to the city. He just won't talk to us. So I'm a little hesitant to actually believe a good outcome.
All I can do is, he got his day in court. Nobody knew who he was before. He wouldn't reach out because he's like, nobody's asking me anything. So all I can do is tell you that they're willing to talk. So I'll do my best, but that's all.
Well, like I said, I needed my husband here tonight.
I'm sorry.
It's a very unsettling feeling to be a resident in the city of Rochester and have given up so much and paid so much. Thank you.
Further public comment, Brian? All good?
Yep, we're all set.
Thank you for staying late, Brian.
I'll asleep.
Sure thing.
You walk a very little.
It's a record for me. It's a record for me.
On to miscellaneous, Mr. City Manager.
Yeah, just a couple of things. Again, Moon River came down today, all went well. They did a great job keeping the dust down, et cetera, because we had people. I talked to a lot of the businesses on the other side of the street, saw people going in suits, hazmat suits the last 2 weeks. They were doing an investigation. They have to be safe. When they went and found everything was great, watered it down, went great. Arbor Day, Councilman Gould, we had a quick, thank you, Mark, we had a quick pivot because McGregor didn't work with us. Holy Family, Thursday at 1:30. We have 105 trees. Oh, you're going to talk about that. Okay, gotcha. All right, I'm good. And then today, Carl's ran into the DNR and they planted 3,200 4 to 6 inch brown trout in Paint Creek. 4 locations. One of them was at Ludlow. So they're committed to keeping this river alive, trying to get that natural reproduction going. We're going to use that to our advantage to help Melissa when we write that grant to say, we're putting fish in there because we think this can work, but if you don't help us keep the debris out of that river, you're defeating the purpose of spending the money on the fish, right? So that worked to our advantage.
That's good.
That's it, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Just a reminder that tomorrow, Tuesday, the 25th at 4 PM is the filing deadline to run for city council for this year. We currently have 5 candidates.
Very good, thank you. Mr. City Manager.
I'm good.
I'm sorry, Mr. City Attorney.
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Gould,
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Yep, I was just asked to bring up the Rochester's Hills event coming up this weekend, Wine, Wit, and Wisdom, 6 to 9:30, Saturday, April 29th at the library. Tickets are available.
Good. Councilmember Sage.
Nothing this evening, sir.
Councilmember Albrecht.
Yeah, just picking up where Nick was talking, we were unable to get one of our public schools to participate, so we did pivot, and this Thursday, we will be at Holy Family North Campus by St. Andrew Church at 1:35, and we will be joined by 104 fresh-faced third graders, where we will be planting a tree. I'd like to thank Carl and Colin from the DPW, who will, as they do in the, always prep the hole and everything else. We picked a spot with the administration. I want to publicly thank Principal Myers, Vice Principal Vanderkruisen, and Facilities Managers Brown, who were very accommodating for us. I hope all of our tree committee people are there. We will have each of the students will go home with a little sapling, and Nick was able to go from, we had 75 set aside for McGregor, we needed 105 for Holy Family, so we were able to get those additional 30 of them, and we'll get coloring pages and everything else, and we'll get some good press out of this, so sort of a 13th hour, Holy Mary pass, which I guess since it's a Catholic church, that probably works, so that's it, Mayor. Hail Mary, not Holy Mary. I know, that didn't sound right.
They both go together.
Yes, I am Catholic.
We understood. We get it.
Councilmember Trent.
Yes, Stephen Alcock of Rochester Hills recently passed away, and his wife, Martina Alcock, requested that donations be sent to the Rochester Pollinators Butterfly Pledge. Martina communicated to us that Stephen loved the outdoors and nature, and to his last day, he was an avid nature lover who took special care of every creature on earth. But butterflies and birds were his favorite. We would love to have donations from his funeral instead of flowers go to your nonprofit. That was what she said. That was she sent to me. The total donation was $1,250, and I will work with Martina to find a way to use this money to honor her husband. Myself and the Rochester Pollinators would like to thank Martina Alcock for her generosity in honoring her husband in this manner. And that was it.
That's very nice.
I worked with Steve at Chrysler. He was a wonderful guy, really fun guy, wonderful guy, and met his wife too, so it's really nice.
Councilmember Peterson.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to say, if you did not get a chance to see the Stony Creek High School play, Les Mis, last Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it was the most outstanding play ever. So one thing I would love to have the school administration come before us once in a while and kind of give us updates and invite us to like these plays as a council too. I think it would be great to learn about all this, but it was by far probably one of the best plays. And most of those students were seniors in this play, and one of them will be going off to New York. So it's just so incredibly talented. It was just, I was in awe. It was amazing. Second, I would like administration to look into having video cameras on the top deck of the Walnut Street parking lot where people like to go and do donuts all weekend.
Shouldn't be doing that, right?
No, it was pretty scary though, because there were some people up there and it was not,
My neighbor's daughter is going to New York. She's very talented. I'm
So,
sorry I missed it, because I heard she's wonderful.
Just want to thank everybody for staying here late night. Sometimes these are long meetings and contentious, but I appreciate everybody doing a good job. And meeting adjourned. Thank you.
All right.
Do we have an option?